indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Monday, April 14th, Washburn City Commission Board of Equalization meeting.
Liz, you want to go up the table?
Yeah.
So yes, Garrison is scheduled at the same time, so you get me instead of Ryan. All the values were sent to Chelsea and all the information.
There's a 3% increase for residential, correct?
It was 3% for commercial, 5% for residential structures, same as the last 2 years. The market is.
Right. And this is basically per state law, right?
It is. The state requires us to assess at 90 to 100% market value. So
right.
Buyers keep buying at a certain price, and we have to keep up. So.
Okay. No, I was just going to say it's per state law, so we just need a motion and a second to approve the.
Okay.
So I would so move the valuation.
Second.
I have a question.
Yep. Go ahead.
Anyway, no, we have a second, so, called question. My question is, how did you come up with for on ag at only 0.5%?
That is actually done by NDSU. They go on a 10-year rolling basis average, and basically whatever every spring we get the soils from NDSU, and then we just put them in our system. That's just how we're supposed to do it.
Okay.
So NDSU does that. That is not market value. It is the value of the soils, the production of the soils.
And then, when's the last time there's been like an audit over, because I've looked at some pasture, farmland, but property that's side by side, and there's a slight difference.
That is all for the soils. We have soil maps that we use that were done, the soil survey done. I would have to check with Todd when that soil survey was done. But yes, it would, that would be quite extensive to redo the whole soil survey, but.
Sure. And when was the last time what's the average assessment on farm, agriculture land? Is that?
It is according to the soils. So there's no, there's a price set per soil type. So we don't run an average. They have a formula that's based off of the average production over a 10-year period, and they throw out the high and the low, and that's what we end up with.
Is there any other discussion?
Nope.
Any other discussion? If not, roll call vote. Tim?
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So then I just need that form signed.
Okay. Actually, I didn't think, I'll bring it to you tomorrow.
Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Yep,
I
that's
did
just
this one
yeah, it's easy when you're in town. So.
Yeah.
And if you guys ever have any questions or constituents have questions, call us anytime.
Okay. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna.
You need to adjourn this meeting.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Meeting adjourned. All right, we're gonna step into our city commission meeting. Call the meeting to order. We just did the pledge, so I think we'll continue on. Everyone's had a chance to look at the agenda. So you want to move to?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
So one thing on here that's kind of noted is the thing with the star there, the testimony against fluoride cessation. That is Johnny Johnson who will be calling in. He did submit late, and that's why it's different there. So there's that star beside it. So.
Okay. Thank you, Keith. All right, Jim?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, approve the March 10th, 2025 meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at those?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any other questions? Not, Tim?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, and approve the March financials. Everyone had a chance to kind of review those?
I would move to approve the March financials.
Second?
Any more discussion? If not, Tim?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay. And the bills?
You guys looked them over?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, I'll move to approve the bills.
Okay,
Second?
second by Keith. Any more discussion? If not, Tim?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Waiver of fees, Washburn Fire Department.
So this is for a, must be for training?
It's from the National Weather Service.
Okay.
It's like a Skywarn class. Clayton didn't know for sure if they were going to do it. It sounds like it might be something that they're taking away as well.
Okay.
But he wanted to get it on there just in case they were to have it. He should know by the middle to the end of this week if they are if they have somebody that can come up and do it. But he wanted to get it on the agenda just in case it possibly could be canceled. But yes, otherwise it's the Skywarn class that they have done in the past over at the hall.
Okay, no, that's, glad they're doing it, so I'll move to approve that.
Second.
Any more discussion? If not, Tim?
Yes.
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 All right, forestry board appointment?
Can we skip over this one for a minute? Candy is gonna be a little bit late and go to the special assessment and then do the gaming site authorizations if we have to. I told her to come as soon as she could, but giving the Board of Equalization meeting, if we could do that, we could probably do these other couple ones first,
Sure.
if she wasn't here in time.
Okay, thank you. Special assessment board appointment.
Okay, we just have one that has applied, correct?
Yes,
According to deadline.
yes.
So I would move that we would appoint Larry Thomas to the Special Assessment Board.
Second?
Is there any other discussion? Hearing any?
Yes.
Tim? Yes.
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 And yes. Thank you, Larry. All right, gaming site authorization, Washburn American Legion. Riverboat Saloon Memorial Hall.
These are the permits that American Legion fills out to hold their gaming at the bars in town. This one is for the riverboat, and then obviously at the Memorial Hall where they conduct all of their stuff in their gaming offices as well. They're a year long. They go from July 1st to June 30th, so Terry's on top of this game. And it allows them to have their gaming in the bars.
And it's a yearly thing, correct?
Correct.
And where does the cabin get their?
They get it from them too, but Terry had not gotten a hold of them yet.
Okay,
So if they're gonna, hopefully can get that into the next meeting, but he wanted to get these two turned in so that they got approved.
okay, thank you.
I'll
Oh,
move,
go ahead.
I'll move to approve that, Mark.
Sure. Second it. All right, any more discussion? Not hearing any. Tim?
Yes.
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 And yes. All right, second reading of ordinance 139, section 3 amendment.
Is it Mark?
Is it 3 or 111?
Pardon me?
Oh, I'm just question?
Section 3?
Ordinance number 139, amendment to section 3.
Oh, it is 3.
So this is
Okay.
not the full ordinance that is here, it's just, this section of ordinance 139. The whole ordinance is out there, the only part that we are amending though is the class 3 off-sale liquor and beer, and that is going from 1 to 3.
Correct.
And you read it last month, right? I wasn't here.
Yeah.
I
You
did,
actually
yes.
read it, right?
Yep,
And nothing has changed, correct?
correct.
Okay, so Mark, I would move that we would waive the second reading, as nothing has changed, and that we would appoint it as read last time for the second reading.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Any more discussion? Not hearing any. Tim?
Yes.
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 And yes. All right, liquor license application for Interbase and Super Pumper.
So then they would, their current license would just drop in classification, would change in classification, it would just automatically drop in classification from beer only to this if it's approved, is that right?
That is correct. They're going from a class 4 to a class 3.
And
So they
then-
will be able to sell beer and liquor.
So then is there change in the amount of money? Is it just a prorated thing, or how does that?
This is the initial licensing fee,
Okay,
so they have to pay that.
okay, kind of like, okay, to get in.
Yes.
Yes.
And then now next year, then when they renew it, they'll have that renewal fee, but they're actually getting a brand new license.
Okay,
So they have to pay that $10,000.
the initial fee.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to act separately on these, Mark, or you want to do them together? I would suggest you do it separately.
Yeah, I would recommend that we do it separate, so.
I would move that we would approve Interbase's application for their liquor license application.
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? Not hearing any. Tim?
Yes.
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 And yes. Okay, Super Pumper?
I would also move that we would approve theirs. I looked through it at home, it's in order. So,
I'll second that.
okay.
Any more discussion? Not hearing any. Tim?
Yes.
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 And yes. Okay, number 13, propose to remove fluoride from water treatment process.
Okay, so I submitted.
Do you
this-
want to go back to the forestry board? If Candy's not here, it's not fine, but I
Oh.
guess I'd rather get that done before we move into this next topic, if that's okay.
No,
good.
that's
I
fine.
apologize, go ahead.
Okay, so unfortunately, we did receive a letter today, at the end of this afternoon that we have, so we had an open position that was for forestry and for special assessment that was published, yada, yada, yada. We had 2 people submit a letter of interest for the forestry board. And now I just received a resignation from 2 members on the forestry board. So we actually have 2 open positions that we could, try to fill. So Bev and Donna have submitted their resignation.
But that's who these, so that'll leave 2 openings.
Yes,
Right.
and we have 2 people that had submitted a letter of interest to be on the forestry board.
So we dropped 2 and we need 2.
Correct.
Okay, so. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. They're, I don't think they've termed out.
No,
So then now, well, Donna just got on, so.
she did just get on.
So are we just 2 short after this? Or are we 3?
Yeah, if we accept their resignation and then, being we do have 2 people here, I guess, that are interested. If they still are, they could both be appointed and that would, fill the board then to 5 people.
Okay, so it'd be Cody, and it would be, the new-
Phaedra.
Phaedra,
You.
Okay.
And then we have 2 interested,
okay, so,
which could then replace Bev and
correct,
Donna.
okay. Okay, I would move that we would accept the resignations and then also thank them for their years of service on there, so.
Second.
And then we have
You need to
Go ahead and
on
vote, yep.
Yeah, any more discussion? Tim?
Yes.
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 And yes.
And then if I can address that, Mark, I'm on 4th Street, so just,
Go ahead.
yeah, I think with Candy at the library, she is, submitting to other and Zach from the city, I think they would be really good additions. With Candy doing a lot of things and promoting things down at the library, I think she was even talking maybe about a tree thing, so. You two library guys wanna kick something in there?
I just appreciated
His letter was very nice.
Oh,
Zach,
you mean
yeah,
I wanna read.
Yeah, you read that out loud.
When I
Zach,
get to
yeah,
Zach.
let's read that, please.
So anyway, but I mean, with Candy down there and her resources and the things she does, and then Mr. Lumberjack here, he came without his axe. He submitted a letter that said, I am interested in serving on the forestry board. I believe I will be a good asset with my knowledge and being an employee at the city.
I'm
Additionally,
going to go and put you on hold for right now, okay? You're welcome.
my impressive lumberjack beard will lend credibility to our forest operation here in Washburn. P.S. Quick question, will I be supplied with a flannel and a double-sided axe as part of this position? So,
Yes.
yeah,
No.
we'll get you a rubber one, so. But anyway, I think with Candy down there and Zach, working for the city, he has a background in the forestry thing with his work with the state. So, I guess I would just do it in one motion that we would approve the appointment of both Zach and Candy to the forestry board.
Second.
Any more discussion? Not hearing any? Tim?
Yes.
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 And yes. All right. Is there
That's
anything
okay.
else, Chelsea?
No.
Okay. Congratulations. All right, we're gonna move on to 13. Keith?
Yeah, so 13 is proposal to remove fluoride from water treatment process. When forming this agenda item, there were certain rules given to the presenters that there'll be 10-minute presentations. We have Johnny Johnson, that he is against fluoride cessation.
Oh, I gotta hung up on him.
Oh, we'll get Johnny Johnson back, who's against fluoride cessation. We actually hung up here, but. Then Dr. Griffith Cole, who supports it, as well as Michael Conant, the lead attorney in Food and Water Watch versus the EPA. So, first of all, I do just want to kind of cover some concerns that I had.
Mark, why don't you go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, we'll just get him on hold and then I'll continue.
You could just mute him and he could listen.
I got cut off.
Yeah.
No more. You see the mute button?
Okay, so,
I think you muted us.
There we go.
perfect. Okay, so you're probably wondering what this first item is. Well, I was curious as to why there was such a push by certain individuals towards us keeping water fluoridation. So I did a public record request between Vanessa Bopp, who sent the emails from the dentist to our meeting, and Jim Kershaw, the water guy, who's not here tonight but came in the past to all of our other meetings. What I found was shocking, and I'm here to share some of it so we can have some transparency. To be clear, all of this has been submitted to the city auditor for anyone to verify. The North Dakota Oral Health Program is supported by a CDC grant to the tune of $400,000 per year. According to their grant documentation, they are to support community water fluoridation through technical assistance, equipment, and neutral education. However, anti-lobbying provision on page 47 strictly prohibits using these funds for publicity or propaganda, or to influence legislation or administrative level at any level of government, including grassroots lobbying effort defined as mobilizing public pressure to sway policy. Emails obtained via public record requests suggest Oral Health Program may have violated this by orchestrating a campaign to influence our decision here on water fluoridation, not just to educate in a neutral way. You probably noticed the name of the agenda item, astroturfing concerns. Well, what's astroturfing? Astroturfing is when a group with money and power pretends to be regular folks supporting something, but it's really a planned push from the top. Real grassroots come from the community naturally. And here the Oral Health Program used CDC cash to manufacture support for fluoridation in Washburn. The characters involved in this are Jim Kershaw, Bismarck, North Dakota water guy, Vanessa Bopp, Oral Health Program public health hygienist, and Sherry Kiefer, director of the North Dakota Oral Health Program. The first thing I want to cover is how Kershaw was paid to be at our meeting and his hidden funding and misleading claims. At our first meeting in January, Jim Kershaw claims not once but twice that he was here on his own funding and time. Commissioner Harvey here straight up asked him at timestamp 44:35 in our January meeting, so just to clarify, you do not work for Big Fluoride. Kershaw responded, I do this on my own time to help colleagues like this, referencing Adam. At 51:32, Kershaw said, no, I am not being paid by Big Pharma. I do this on my own time. I do this at my own expense for gas money and stuff. But according to email evidence between Sherry Kiefer, the director of the Oral Health Program, and Jim Kershaw, these are some of the excerpts from that, and all this has been submitted to the office. Sherry says, we do have funding to help support your travel. The letter of agreement was sent to the American Fluoridation Society for you to attend the Washburn meeting January 13th, 2025. And after the meeting, just to confirm that there was a payment, it says, I received Jim's non-employee reimbursement. You would be able to claim supper for the evening as we have discussed, January 21st, 2025. Sherry Kiefer to Kershaw. Kershaw claimed he acted independently, but CDC funds paid for his trip. His pro-fluoride testimony, including when he said most dentists support water fluoridation. He urged us to keep it at our second meeting, aimed to sway us, which is lobbying, not neutral education, violating grant rules. The reimbursement emails verify actual payment, not just a promise. If he would have actually come as a concerted citizen, he could have said anything he wanted. But when you accept grant funds, you have to play by the grant's rules. And this did not come with an educational tone either, but rather an aggressive push to overpower us. This is a quote from Sherry Kiefer, the Oral Health Program Director, 3 hours before our January meeting. You're going to be amazing, Jim. Flatten them like a pancake, said Sherry Kiefer. Oral Health she urged Kershaw to crush us hours before the meeting. This isn't technical assistance or education. It's a funded intent to dominate, risking a grant violation. There was also a coordinated pressure campaign. Oral Health Program used grant time, rallied dentists and organizations to flood us with advocacy letters. You guys remember those? They were all submitted by Vanessa Bopp at the same time. And in some instances, provided them with templates, which you can actually see in what I submitted to public record. Side by side, all they did was put the city's name on it and their credentials at the bottom. To be clear, this was 90% of the pushback we received, including almost all the dentist letters before our second meeting. So in summary, there was grant violations, mobilizing letters, public pressure, and funded testimony to influence our administrative action. There was deception, Kershaw's false own time claim, and Oral Health Program's fake grassroots facade hid a state-driven agenda skewing our process. And our voice was most importantly diminished. As you can see from the petition that I submitted to our office here, 100 of our citizens do not consent to us medicating them with fluoride through the water supply. This was not Washburn speaking, it was a CDC-funded campaign to flatten us like a pancake. This is especially pertinent because the only reasons given by legislators who did not pass the recent banning of fluoridation was that they wanted to maintain local control. We do not have local control when we have state and federally funded activists influencing our local decisions. I hope for the remainder of these discussions, we can strive for honesty. I only request from now on, if someone is being paid to be here, to please disclose that. And with that, we can move on to our first speaker, which will be Johnny Johnson. I will set a 10-minute timer, as I will for all of the different speakers, and we'll get ready for the presentation.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Hello. You're up.
Okay, good afternoon or good evening. This is Dr. Johnny Johnson. I'm a pediatric dentist, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak before you tonight. I have written you before on water fluoridation, and really want to just take a few minutes of your time to kind of summarize the information that has been presented in the past. And what you're hearing is exactly the same thing that's going around the country has been since 1945, which I'm not laughing about, but it is a concerted effort by those who oppose water fluoridation to use information that will supply or will support their position. I'm pathetic people who are truly ill, and I have been confronted by people in wheelchairs and with ailments and disabilities and pointed at saying, you put me here. I am someone, as a scientist, that has to understand and look at information and make a decision based on the best available evidence. And while I'm sympathetic and empathetic to people who truly believe fluoridation causes any health effects whatsoever, the science does not bear that out. There are nearly actually today, I checked, there is 7,000 research articles and papers on the National Library of Medicine, PubMed, on water fluoridation alone. The mountain of evidence that supports water fluoridation is just like the mountain of evidence that supports how to build a building to stand up to the whiteout in North Dakota or hurricane in Florida. We have to put a mountain of evidence and what it shows. And the overwhelming amount of that evidence is that fluoridation continues to work, and that is a safe measure for everyone. I'm a pediatric dentist. I see what happens when fluoridation is in effect, and I see what happens when it is not in effect. I see kids, I see children and adults with physical and genetic disabilities into their 40s and beyond. Each one of these people, adults and children, benefit from water fluoridation. It does not cause any health elements. Studies have been done around the world. Starting when we first discovered fluoride in water in 1901 out in Colorado, where fluoride in all water is present at some level, and including the ocean, where it's up to 4.4 parts per million, double that of what you have as optimal in your water. It doesn't cause issues with vegans or skin. There are those who say that it's a poor skin, I can't protect myself. True facts are that it does not get absorbed through the skin. So I really want to kind of put some issues into perspective as far as the IQ studies that have been in the news lately, and several other conceptions or promoted information in the media. Studies that have been in the media recently over the past few years are from a group of Canadian researchers that fluoridation is not causing, but they're saying causing IQ deficits, IQ reductions. It's causing pineal gland calcification, sleep disturbances. It's causing everything except ingrown toenails. Respectfully, there's not a cause. We don't know of anything other than association between fluoride in water and high levels, not what we have in the U.S. or Canada or Europe, with the fluoridated water, as well as Israel and other countries. There are no known health issues whatsoever that are associated with water fluoridation. None. I'm an old person. I'm 67 years old. I have a dry mouth because I take a handful of pills every day because I have a lot of ailments. My mouth is dry. I am at highly increased risk of getting cavities because the saliva is not very buff in my mouth, and the acids that are produced by plaque in my mouth. I, along with people who are have had handicaps, not able to clean their teeth well, those that are in nursing homes that get no brushing of their teeth by the staff, and that is an unfortunate fact. Fluoridated water is sometimes the only preventative measure that they are going to receive. You have poverty levels that are high, any poverty level, those that are impoverished. And I was growing up, we had twice as many cavities as others. I had no fluoridation growing up. I speak for those that are not able to be in attendance at your meeting, those that are, you represent as well as you know, but they can't have the benefit of knowing what's going on and voting. When we talk about personal choice in this, first of all, children do not get to choose which family they are born into. They don't get to have a vote. They have to have what we allow them to have as parents and you as decision makers. Everybody deserves a fighting chance to have a healthy set of teeth. A tooth abscess, I will tell you as a medical dental provider, is not just a cavity in the tooth. An abscess is long your lung collapses and you got a pulmonary collapse, heart attack, even cancer. So many of your organs in your body that are affected by food that has manifest. Yes, it's all in the food, but it's the most common chronic disease of adults and children around the world. Choice. Those kids don't have a choice. What choices do we have? Well, we certainly can have an RO system in our homes that will take out almost 97% of fluoride. It's a $230 reverse substitute, and I use it as something that is very effective, and it is a choice that we have. But we want to look at it from another perspective. When you hear that it's a medication, I get my own choice. It's a force on me. It's no informed consent. All of these have been heard in the U.S. courts in the U.S. over down 109 times since fluoridation began. 42 cases have heard medication in them, and none have ever said that fluoride is a medication. Not a single one. Informed consent, 3 court cases have heard that. And what one here in Florida said, which I think was most succinctly put by the judge, when you have fluoridated water supplied to you by the water utility, it is the water utility that's bringing safe drinking water to your home. Your community decides to fluoridate. They're doing that to help the community and be healthier and in living better lives, quality of life. When you go to turn that faucet on, that is your choice, whether to use the water or not. Whether you are mixing it with scotch, whether you are mixing it with food or rice and cooking it, that's where your choice starts. So you heard this multiple times, and I can send this to you that I did before, but it has never been shown to be, in the report, she's never been shown that it needs to stop because it infringes upon anybody's rights or it's illegal, whatever. And again, to me, these are important things. I have to look at this from the standpoint of, as an old person, I'm a dentist now. I was able to go to college. It's one of my family. We grew up poor. We were able to go, so I am here representing those that can't. If there were health issues, let's look at what's coming up in the health issue arena. Our leading health and medical scientific organizations around the world support water fluoridation. There is not a single medical or scientific organization in the world that opposes it. And that's for a reason. It's not an issue. The Department of Defense, they absolutely have it directed that every base with 3,300 people on them around the world have to have fluoridated water. It's Homeland Security. It is so that our troops are ready to be deployed and that they are able and ready to fight. They did that in 2013, and it continues to this day. If we look at no other groups other than 2, I'm just going to name 2.
30 seconds left, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you.
Yes, of course.
The American College of OGDYN and the American Academy of Pediatrics, people that we trust our babies with. They recommend fluoridated water for pregnant mothers for good oral health, mental health, and the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends it for our children and babies. If it was any issue at all, it would be the one leading the way to discontinue it. Please keep fluoridation in your water. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Perfect. Perfect on 10 minutes.
I have a question for you, Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, being that you're a dentist, correct? Do you feel that, what is considered a high level of fluoride?
A high level of fluoride is considered by we look at how the levels are set in the U.S. A high level of fluoride is considered 4 parts per million. That's the level that the EPA says. Beyond that, it could be health issues. So that is not allowed to be served in the water system. We're talking about 6 times less than that is what you have in your water. That's set by the Health and Human Services, U.S. Public Health Services recommended for optimal dental health, and that's a fraction of what a high level is.
Okay, Some of the testing that was done out of the United States, testing was done at 1.5, is that correct?
Actually, speaking of the National Toxicology Program that I reviewed, that just to kind of clarify, that was a systematic review of studies done around the world. There have been multiples of these. This is the only one that was shown any sort of a potential harm. I won't get into the specifics because it's highly contested. It's trying to be retracted. People are trying to retract it. They looked at levels in foreign countries, not the U.S. and not Canada, but look at countries like China, Iran, and Iraq, and India. And those levels that they looked at were multiples of what we have here, naturally existing in the water. And it was there that they started to find an association, not a cause. There was no causation. Association, and I know we probably know this, but one of the easiest ones for me is people that like Nicolas Cage movies. There is an association with the number of people who fall out on boats and Kentucky and drown. Just because you watch Nicolas Cage movie, it doesn't mean you're going to drown in a boat in Kentucky. So there is no causation. They're only suggesting that this is an association somewhere above 1.5 parts per million. The NTP did not say at what level it was. Below that level, they would state on page 3 of their document that it does not apply to water fluoridation in Canada and the U.S. at levels below 1.5 parts per million. They even state that in their document themselves.
Okay, one last question. So,
Yes, sir.
in the United States, has there been any testing done to fall in line with your statements?
And we had the analysis done in the U.S. to look at this from an evaluation standpoint.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I mean,
Okay.
all the documentation that I've come across, everything was, all the studies were outside of the United States, correct?
They were outside the United States, but there's been analysis of the NTP and they didn't look at studies that were conducted in different this way.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
I do, yeah. Hey, Dr. Johnson, are you able to hear me?
Guess not.
We must got. Hello?
I'm sorry, this is Johnny Johnson. My phone dropped on you. I was just finishing that last question.
That's okay.
There
You're a lot clearer now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was on my headphones trying to cut out any background noise.
Okay.
My apologies. There have been studies that have looked at just the same way that the NTP did. They looked at studies that were done around the world, and they have shown in their studies that below 1.5 parts per million, there's absolutely no impact on IQ. And this is from in the U.S., it's from other countries where the countries themselves have major organizations that have toxicologists, they have physicians, scientists, statisticians, and all involved. Every one of these groups that looks at it says no, there is no association between fluoride levels at low levels like we have and IQ issues. I actually, and I'm like you, I'm recommending that we have a strong study done in the U.S. It's not going to be funded, unfortunately, because we know that it doesn't exist. However, we're asking Congress right now, the American Association and others of us have signed a letter to Congress to fund a study in the U.S. that is in areas where we have naturally low fluoride, which is tons of areas have naturally low levels like they're 0.2 or 0.3 parts per million. And areas in the U.S. that have levels that are above 2 parts per million, 3 parts per million, 4 parts per million. We have people in Texas and other areas out west that have high natural levels. So we want to know, actually we want to demonstrate is there an issue or isn't there? So that's something that's in the works. We hope, pray the Lord that gets done. But what I would suggest, and what I have done, is to look at what testing do we do in our kids so they can go to college. Colleges look at the kids, our graduating seniors' ACT scores. And when we look at that, and I look at it with children also from data from the education programs in schools. Just a quick one. In Missouri, I looked at it with a person there trying to explain, just as you are, in a city council meeting, how do we know that we don't have something going on? Well, first of all, we look around each other and go, we're looking pretty okay ourselves. But besides that, we looked at the ACT scores of people in Missouri that had natural fluoride levels in the water that were low and natural fluoride levels in the water that were high, up to over 2.5 parts per million. The IQ test from the studies from the cities that had low levels and the high levels were less than 1 point difference on the ACT score. Now, if there was anything going on, we would see that the low fluoride levels areas would have higher scores. It's not making sense. We've done this with school grades here in Florida. Our schools get graded A, B, C, and D, or F, if they're not doing well. And we've done it in counties and also cities that have fluoridated water versus those that don't. And there's no rhyme or reason. And more so that those that have low fluoride levels are not making as good a grades in grade school as those that are fluoridated. There's a lot of factors that go into IQ, but fluoride has never been shown to be one of those that is going into it, certainly at levels that we're talking about what we have. We do know the huge benefits that it has for adults and children, and I can tell you from my standpoint, I beg you to please keep it for your families. The worst thing that we can do is to turn something around that we know it works and it doesn't hurt anyone. And lastly, as a dental professional, we have the worst business model of anyone in the world. We absolutely are advocating for less income by preventing decay, preventing cavities in at least 25 to 50% or more of adults and children by having fluoridated water at the optimal amount. And that's because it's the most common chronic disease. It's an infectious disease, and it's one more so than even obesity, diabetes, and asthma. It's the most common chronic disease here and around the world. Everybody wants to stop it, and that's where we are with it.
Okay, so what's your optimal?
I was asking a question, Mark, before
Well-
you dropped the phone.
Yeah, but he was still answering my question.
Yeah, but then you said you were finished.
Well, can I continue?
Okay.
Just to verify what you just said. So you're saying fluoride does help in preventing cavities, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and just to make sure that we're clear here, so the difference between low levels and high levels, there isn't a line between mental issues?
We don't see that in the U.S. No, sir. We do not.
Okay.
That is something that theoretically, because we know in other countries that where they have evaluated, like in China, India, Iran, we know that they have seen some IQ deficits, declines in those areas where it's naturally occurring. But there's so many other contaminants. There's arsenic. There's many other things that are in that water to begin with that we don't have any idea what's actually causing any IQ changes.
Okay.
There's no mechanism that it shows, there's no mechanism for knowing, hey, when you have fluoride, it causes this. There's been no biological mechanism identified. So we don't know if it's actually, well, fluoride's high and these people are having some IQ deficits. Is it fluoride that's doing it, or is it something else in the water? Is it in the environment? Is it genetics? Is anything. We just don't know. I mean, we want to know if it's more than anyone. The last thing we would want to do is to cause harm. I mean, we're healthcare providers, but this is something that at low levels, and low levels in the United States for fluoridated water are 0.7. The maximum that the EPA allows, which is not, the EPA doesn't set fluoridation levels. That is recommended by our public health service. The EPA is set with how much can be in the water and not cause harm to anyone. And they set that at 4 parts per million, 6 times what you have. At 2 parts per million is when brown stains begin to show up in teeth. That's where they say we don't really want to see it above 2 parts per million, but they allow, like I said, in West Texas and other areas that have high levels, they will allow those water systems, community water systems, to serve water up to 4 parts per million with a notice to people that, hey, you're going to get brown teeth. And if you ever went out west in Texas and other areas out west that have high natural levels, you'll see people with brown teeth. I've got many friends that are healthcare professionals. They're not stupid, but they say, you know, you're going to have brown teeth. And at that high of a level, you'll have the enamel chip off your teeth. It'll work, but they're not done.
Okay, Mr. Happett has a question. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Dr. Johnson, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I sure can. Thank you.
Excellent. So after our first meeting on this subject that Jim Kershaw attended, I sent an email to Jim to clarify some points made during his presentation. He forwarded that to you, and this was your response about me simply asking questions. This is a language warning for any young ears. Can I respond to this C-sucker? He's a stupid F. I'm betting that the antis have their own poison control center in NODAC. Effing idiot, Johnny Johnson Jr., DMD, MS, pediatric dentist. Dr. Johnson, is this how you respond to evidence requests as a public health advocate?
That was between 2 people discussing things. It was not intended for you to see. And I will tell you that being an advocate and having people call your integrity and your professionalism into question, which happens to me all the time, including having physical threats against me, I do get a bit disturbed under the surface, yes. And no, I do not intend anyone to see those things. That's me blowing off steam, as you and anyone else would be blowing off steam. And that's just that's one of those things. And as I heard you say earlier, sir, you were talking about what Sherry Kiefer said in a email to Mr. Kershaw. And I saw that on your website. She said to smash them like a pancake. And what you didn't say was that she tells her son that when he's playing sports. I think it was football. That's the term she said to him. The whole context of that is what this is all about. It's not picking something out and choosing it. So no, sir, I did not intend for you to see that. I'm sorry that you did. It was a frustration that I was blowing off. And I do that between my friends and myself when no others are to see it. But because records requests are made, and that is done, but I'm not saying you did it for this reason, but that is done in this country by those that oppose fluoridation in an attempt to stop people from being able to have their free speech about helping public health folks. And it's applied right now to the National Institute of Health, CDC, every organization in this country, health departments, are under open records requests by the Fluoride Action Network. And that is a group that leads the opposition to fluoridation in the world. And they're based here in the United States. And that's something that people cannot do their jobs in public health. They cannot come out and say anything. If they say something that the toenail steps over a little line and they ask you to keep fluoridation in your water, they are now considered advocating for something that's going to be voted on. They can lose their jobs over that. How that does not make sense to me at all, that people we entrust our lives with are now told, oh, you can't say that.
Hey, Dr. Johnson, you answered my question sufficiently. Thank you so much. I'll move on to the next one. On slide 7 of the presentation that you sent us, Why Oral Health Matters, you list death as a bullet point with images of 2 individuals with red arrows pointing to them. I conducted a reverse image search and found their obituaries, which I have printed here. a young boy named DeMonte Driver, and a young father of two little
Right.
girls named Vadim Kondratkuk. I find it troubling that you've chosen to exploit these individuals' deaths to push for community water fluoridation, especially since both lived in areas with fluoridated water their entire lives. How do you justify using their images and tragedies to support your argument when the evidence contradicts your point?
I'm glad you asked that question. First of all, I don't believe the Russian gentleman lived entirely his whole life in the U.S. and in a fluoridated area. But when I say, let me answer your question. I could list many people. Those are some that are in the news. I cannot divulge patients' information that would be identified without having their permission to do so. But these are individuals who are publicly in the news, just as there was a Tampa Bay Buccaneers football player who died of an abscess too. And that was a couple of years ago. These that are in the media, we can talk about. Now, how many people die from abscesses? Like I said, lung collapse, brain abscesses, sepsis in their blood being full of bacteria. It is more than I care to count. And there have been studies on this. They die from heart attack or a brain abscess. Their toe tag has a list of things that, what was the cause of death? The third or fourth thing down may be an abscess that caused the infection, that caused the brain abscess. So these people are dying. It's not me exploiting anyone. It's me making the point that this is not just about a tooth. This is not about a hole in the mouth, in a cavity in a mouth. This is about an entire whole body effect from the most common chronic disease in our world. And that's the issue that we're dealing with as healthcare providers, is protecting the health of the public. Does that answer that question, sir?
That does. Thank you so much. No further questions.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your time.
You're welcome. Oh, thank you all very much for hearing me, and I'm certainly available anytime for any help at all. God bless.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So does that surprise you that there was $1 billion?
I was doing a minute or so to get this set up.
Only $133 million was actually appropriate. I'm surprised more people didn't apply for that. Or maybe it was just that hard to meet the application. I just think, looking at this, these brick grants, he had provided $1 billion. It was only $133 million. That was over 4 years ago. Was that replicated? For the brick grant? Sure. Those looks strange.
Congratulations.
Then only that little amount of issue.
Yeah, because it's 21. The 1 billion only.
I don't know why they didn't do that.
Yeah, unless they just didn't.
I had one very simple question.
People apply or?
Yeah, calling back, I wanna know, is there a filter that will take out this,
Or did the money
the
go
fluoride? If there is,
It's reverse,
the hell with it.
reverse osmosis,
Yeah,
Then
was
get that.
Was that sure?
Don't mess up the whole.
You know what I mean?
Okay, Dr. Cole, can you hear us?
Huh?
Okay, we'll get you go through here in just 1 second.
I'm gonna stand down on this end if you don't mind.
Sure. You're welcome.
Where's the TV speakers? Over here?
Yes, I'll this side.
This side? Now turns on the speakers. Okay, try now. And how about now? I think you might be muted actually.
I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. You'll just give me one moment here to get everything finalized. Now that we got our little sound thing figured out. So Dr. Griffin Cole is a mercury-safe dentist with over 20 years of experience, a master of the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, and an advocate for holistic dental health. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Cole. I'm going to start your timer as soon as we get your presentation up, then we'll come back to you for questions. Does that sound okay?
That sounds good.
Okay, go ahead.
And thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm actually a dentist of 33 years, and I've been studying fluoride science for about 25. So let's go to the very first slide.
Yes, sir.
Get some volume.
Volume? I think that's about as loud as it goes.
I'll speak as loud as I can.
Is that good or not?
Good as you
I
got.
just got it. Okay, go ahead.
Next slide, please. Okay, so the CDC every couple of years will post an oral health survey where they're looking at third graders, 8 and 9-year-olds, and it's a perfect age to look at because they have mixed dentition, some baby teeth and some permanent teeth. And I just want to show you some examples up here. So 2 of the least fluoridated states in the entire country are New Hampshire and Vermont. And they have 2 of the lowest decay rates in the country. Now, if you look at this next section, the highest fluoridation rates, Washington DC at 100%, Kentucky nearly 100%, both with 60% decay rates. And unfortunately, the great state of North Dakota, 96% fluoridated, has a 68% decay rate. Now look, you can find states with low fluoridation, high decay, and vice versa, but that just makes my point that there really is no correlation at all between water fluoridation and decay rates. Next slide. 3 very important things to know. There has never been a double-blinded, randomized clinical trial to prove that fluoridation actually works or is safe. And this is probably impossible nowadays, but could have easily been done in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. There has never been a long-term follow-up study to prove that fluoridation actually worked, and yet there's been numerous ones to show that it didn't. One that I am very familiar with is my hometown of San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio did not fluoridate, thankfully, until the year 2000. And after 9 years of doing it, the Metro Health Department said, well, let's do a study. Let's see if this is working. So they looked at the poorest parts of Bear County, because that's who we're trying to help, right? The underserved, the ones that don't have access to good dental care or can afford to filter their water. So after 9 years and $3 million, they found out that not only did decay rates not go down, they actually increased 13%. Now, water fluoridation had nothing to do with this, but the point is, it certainly didn't do its intended function. The last point, we hear a lot from pro-fluoridations that fluoride is fluoride is fluoride. It's simply not true. Silicofluorides, which is what is added to your water supply, and pretty much about 90% of all the ones in our country, is nothing like naturally occurring calcium fluoride. Silicofluorides have never been FDA approved for ingestion, and they were never proven safe prior to dumping in our water supply. Next slide, please. So, silicofluorides are absolutely not like naturally occurring fluoride, and this was proven by Johannes Westendorf in 1975, a long time ago. He did his dissertation on this. Not only did he prove that silicofluorides do not completely dissociate under physiological conditions, i.e. in our water supply and then in our bodies, but he also showed that they block a very important enzyme called acetylcholinesterase, which regulates our neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and all those. So very, very important. Next slide, please. One more very important thing. Calcium fluoride is naturally occurring fluoride. Sodium fluoride is what you see in toothpaste. Silicofluorides is what's added to our water supply. Calcium fluoride, thankfully, is not that easily absorbed. The body is going to have pretty quickly. But look at the lethal dose. 3,750 milligrams per kilogram of body weight is what is needed to actually kill somebody. But the silicofluorides that's added to our water supply is actually easily absorbed, and the lethal dose is only 125 milligrams per kilogram. So 30 times less could kill us. Next slide. Pro-fluoridationists love to talk about the Calgary study from 2016 by Lindsay McLaren. They claim that in 2011, when they stopped fluoridation in Calgary, all the decay rates spiked. They always say they spike. Well, I want to show you the full graph here. If you look on that slide there was a linear progression of decay. There wasn't a spike in 2011 when they ended it. And the author admits this. Next slide. This is a graph from the slide, and I've highlighted for you Calgary 2013-14 versus fluoridated Edmonton 2013-14. And then look at the bottom, the mean decayed, extracted, and filled teeth. That's how they look at it. What is the mean average of decayed, extracted, and filled teeth? It was 6.4 in Calgary, but it was 6.6 in Edmonton. Yes, Calgary went up, which I showed you on that linear graph, but it was still lower than fluoridated Edmonton, the control city. Next slide. Here's a quote from the lead author. So that slide I showed you on that graph was mixed dentition, baby and permanent teeth. But look what the author says. In terms of permanent teeth, Carrie's experience actually decreased in Calgary during the time frame of the study. Next slide. This is what it's all about, guys. Babies, protecting our babies. Natural fluoride in breast milk is very, very low. It's 0.004 parts per million as compared to what's in the water supply at 0.7. So a bottle-fed baby where 90% of the ingredient of their food is water and usually tap can get much greater than 150 times what the mother would provide. You can't control the dosage. This is what it's all about. One size does not fit all. Next slide, please. We always hear that there's a 25% reduction in decay from water fluoridation. That's what pro fluoridations always say, 25% less decay. I want to tell you where that came from. It came from the Cochrane Review in 2015. My slide is the most recent one, so just listen carefully. So the one from 2015, and by the way, the Cochrane collaboration is awesome. Everybody agrees, all sides. It's like 37,000 researchers. Their job is to look at what's in the literature, discern what's actually good science, and give the results. So in 2015, they went back all the way to 1946 in their studies and up to 2014. And they admitted in that study that most of the studies prior to the early 70s were of lower quality, and keep in mind that fluoridated toothpaste wasn't even out till the mid to late 50s. But what they found there was about 4 less cavities per child, which came out to about 25%. Fast forward to just a few months ago, October of 2024, they did a brand new one. And this time they went from 1975 up to 2023. And look what they found. They looked at 157 studies and could only find acceptable quality from 22 pro-fluoride children studies and none for adults. That's how little there was. There was such a paucity of good studies. But look at the average benefit now. 1/4 of 1 tooth. Next slide. Here's a graph from the actual study. If you look at the x-axis, the bottom line, that's the years. The y-axis is the number of fewer cavities. Yes, if you look back around 1974-5, there was between 3.5, 4 less cavities. Fast forward all the way to 2025 now, and it's 1/4 of 1 tooth. Next slide. Also, this past year in 2024, the Lotus study out of UK, the largest study in the world of the effects of fluoridation on the dental health of adults, ages 12 and up. 10-year cohort study. They could do this because only about 10% of the UK is fluoridated, and it's easy to track for the Public Health Service. And look what they found after looking at 6.4 million adults. Fluoridation results in only 2% of fewer cavities, no reductions despite social inequalities, everybody brushed the same, no reductions in missing teeth, and most importantly, fluoridation looked like a net economic loss when capital costs are included. Next slide, please. This study just came out last week. This is from 5 of the world's top researchers in toxicology. And they looked once again at what is fluoride doing to these babies that are born and to pregnant moms. And of course, we find fluorosis, including skeletal fluorosis. But look at the rest: risk of adverse birth outcomes, decreased thyroid function, risk of adverse neurodevelopmental and behavioral outcomes, and of course, lowered IQ. I will say one thing about Dr. Johnson. He said there's a lot of studies on fluoride. There are, and most of them are not pro-fluoride. There are 84 world studies showing effects to the IQ, including the United States. Next slide. He also likes to say that there's no professionals that are opposed to fluoridation. Listen, the ADA, the AMA, the American Pediatric, all those are professional trade organizations. They are not experts by any means. They're not toxicologists, and they're not epidemiologists. I like to look at that. So Health and Human Services, obviously, because of our new secretary, is definitely not any kind of promoters of water fluoridation. Neither is the CDC now. The entire oral health division has been disbanded. So the very group that pro-fluoridationists have have hung their hat on is no longer going to be supporting water fluoridation. The Florida Department of Health and Human Services, the Florida Surgeon General, who by the way is a Harvard-educated MD who specializes in public health initiatives for poor and underserved communities. The state of Utah and many states to follow, hopefully, but most importantly, a host of toxicologists, epidemiologists, Nobel laureates, and many health professional groups, including the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. Next slide. Keith, if you can play this video, this is just a
Is the
15-second
CDC
clip
aware of any
of the
evidence?
then oral health director, Casey Hannon, being deposed by attorney Michael Connick in that huge lawsuit against the EPA. It speaks for itself. Please press play if you can on that key.
Yep, sorry, I went earlier here, but yep.
Is the CDC aware of any evidence demonstrating benefits from consumption of fluoridated drinking water during the first 6 months of life?
We are not aware of any evidence.
I mean,
So
Dr.
the very
Cole,
correct-
Dr. Cole, your time ran out during that. If you want to just finish up your final point here.
Okay, I was just gonna say that the very group who has been promoting this for years just admitted that there's no evidence that it works in infants, nor toddlers, nor young children, and even just topical effect only and not systemic. I've got one more slide, but I'm out of time. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we'll open up for questions for Dr. Cole.
Anybody have anything?
I do have some questions, yeah.
I do too, but go ahead.
No, you can go first, Mark. That's
No,
fine.
you go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for all the great information, bringing the different studies and that sort of stuff for sure. Just to be clear, that last video clip you played, was that then he was the acting CDC director at that time?
The acting CDC director of the Oral Health Division.
And at that same time, were they advocating for fluoride in the water?
They always have been, yep, up until now.
But then when put under deposition, they have to tell the truth.
That's correct.
Interesting. So with that, the NTP was brought up that it was not good. It's going to be retracted soon. What is the latest news? Are you familiar with the NTP monograph that came out?
Of course.
Would you maybe just
That's not
explain
true.
that a little bit? And is it going to be retracted? Is it shaky? We've also had people say that it's that did not pass peer review. All this other sort of stuff. If you could just give us a little information on that, I guess would be great.
Just real briefly, so the National Toxicology Program is the Division of Health and Human Services, and they were tasked at looking at the literature and coming up with a report to show is there any effects, like any kind of brain impairments. Their first report came out like in 2022, and it said exactly that. So the people that were pro-fluoride said, no, do it again, that can't be right. They did a second one, same results in 2023, did a third one, and then a fourth one that the judge finally said, I've seen enough. You guys keep coming up with the same report, and by the way, even when the National Academies of Science said, we've got some points with this, we don't like it, all they had points with was how things were listed and communicated, which the NTP then, they did exactly what they wanted, and everybody agreed this is great, and again, the judge said, I've seen enough. So nothing's gonna be retracted. This is all based on the literature that's already out there.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you so much.
Okay, which judge are you referring to that you just spoke of?
Yeah, Judge Edward Chen, he's out of San Francisco. Your next speaker is gonna talk about this in detail. But he was the judge that actually presided over this 7-year lawsuit in which the EPA lost again. I mean, the judge found that the EPA needs to go back and look at these numbers because he has seen enough in the science to confirm that indeed there are health effects, including lowered IQ in children.
Well, he required the EPA to do a 3-year study, correct?
The judge, you mean?
Correct. He
The
didn't,
judge
he,
can't
but he didn't come to a conclusion. He just stated that high levels might produce some evidence, but not at normal levels, correct?
Well, no, that's not true. Contrary to what the first speaker said, the judge actually says, and I'm going to quote this almost precisely, that at the current levels in water fluoridation poses an unreasonable risk to the IQs of children. At current levels, 0.7. He didn't say 1.5 or 4, or all these numbers he was throwing out. He said it's an unreasonable risk at current levels.
Okay, but we just heard from, Dr. John Johnson that, he said there's no levels that are showing any comparison to IQ from
Yeah,
his
and-
statement.
You'll hear with the next speaker that that's not true, first of all. But let's say it is. Let's say that you don't see damage till 1.5 parts per million. That's 2 liters, my friends, 2 liters. That's it. Any outdoor worker, athlete, even bottle-fed babies will ingest that in about 4 to 5 days. So, and athletes will do it in a day easily, right? Less than a day. And so will any kind of outdoor workers. That's just 2 liters, is 1.5. So we play with these numbers, but any amount is not good. And by the way, that very first slide I showed you, where I showed those 2 states that were very, very low, just so you know, their natural levels of fluoride are 0.1 to 0.2. So they're very low naturally and very low as far as any kind of artificial fluoridation. And they had some of the lowest decay rates in the country. And unfortunately, you guys have near the top. I think West Virginia is the worst.
Okay, one more question. So the studies that you referred to, were those all outside of the United States?
No, I did cite on all my slides. You'll see at the bottom there. The one study that I did not have a chance to include was done by Dr. Ashley Mallon and others in Los Angeles within the last 6 months. That was published, and that came out and showed that again, the level of fluoride exposure to moms had an inverse effect on the child's IQ. That was done in Los Angeles. Okay, neurobehavioral issues in that study.
Yeah, and so basically, when we have 2 people saying different things, we'd be able to just verify by looking at the source documents, correct? Like that's usually a good way to do
That's
it.
exactly right.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Okay, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Cole. Really
Thank you for
appreciate
your
it.
time.
Thank you. It was my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker, let me get my other slideshow switched over here. Okay, our next speaker is Michael Connett. He's a credentialed attorney, having graduated with honors from Temple Law. He recently won a landmark EPA lawsuit forcing the agency to address fluoride's risks to children's IQ.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today to your council. So as has been discussed, I was the lead attorney on this case against the EPA about the neurotoxic risks from fluoride exposure to water fluoridation. The case took 7 years to litigate. Now, one of the things that I love about litigation is you have the opportunity.
Hey, Michael, could you just speak up just a little bit?
Yeah.
A lot of it, I guess, is what I'm hearing.
A lot of it. Okay, let me, is this better?
It's about the same. Does that soundbar turn on? You think my computer would have better sound?
Just check the volume setting on your computer once.
Well, it's maxed out. Sorry, we're gonna start that over in just 1 second here. One moment here, Michael. I'm just gonna switch over to my actual laptop speakers. Go ahead and speak there.
No.
No, that's way worse. Okay.
Absolutely not.
No, we're gonna
Does
go
the
for that.
soundbar work?
Does this soundbar work?
Is Adam still there?
Whatever.
Testing,
I thought it was coming out of the soundbar. No, I think it's.
Well, no, it's coming from the TV itself. Yeah, that soundbar underneath there.
Mr. Adam.
Yeah, Adam's here. So it'll be this thing right here, Adam.
Yeah, it should automatically work.
Is it turned on though?
For you.
It should always be on, yeah. 100% audio display. Microphone array.
Well, because I actually have it set in Zoom for it.
Oh, you have it set in Zoom? Okay.
Yeah.
It's supposed to help it. It's like a daily joke at work.
It's not coming out of sound.
Yeah, it seemed a little bit louder when I was doing testing.
Speaker of the TV.
I don't know if this seems to be. Should we listen to power button or something?
No, we've never had to turn it on.
Okay.
I mean,
Once
what's
I
that
got a
though?
sound bar, that's what I had to do, send it to the
Do you
sound
know
bar to get it.
What
on.
audio source you were using when you were testing?
This same one.
Did you have it set in Zoom or did you have it set in, Windows?
And I'm not too sure.
Zoom can be.
Should we do a 5-minute recess, Mark?
That'd be a great idea.
Sure, sounds good. Okay, we're gonna do a 5-minute recess. If you need to get up and stretch or use the restroom.
Actually, that's a good idea.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, I'm ready.
Yep.
So thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity here to provide some comments about our court case against the EPA. The case lasted over 7 years. We had 2 trials featuring 17 days of expert testimony. So the judge was able to hear both sides of the debate from scientists who are actively researching this issue. One of the things I really like about a court case is that you're not just stuck listening to person A and person B and having them give a spiel without any ability to, you have the ability to cross-examine. So you can't just spout any opinion. You have to back it up with data. And that's the opportunity we had in this court case, to cross-examine government officials about their claims of fluoride's purported safety. I'm probably going to be over time, so I'm going to go quickly. Let's look at a few slides. Slide 2. This is the court's opinion issued September 24th of last year. Slide 3. As you can see here, the court found that the scientific literature in the record provides a high level of certainty that a hazard is present. Fluoride is associated with reduced IQ. Next slide. As has been discussed today, the court relied significantly, but not entirely, on the National Toxicology Program's assessment of the research. The National Toxicology Program is the subject matter expert on toxicology issues at the federal government. And so they have spent years studying the impact of fluoride on IQ, and a lot of the expert testimony at trial looked at what the NTP found. Next slide. As you can see here, the NTP found that there is a large body of evidence on IQ effects in children. Next slide. The NTP found that the studies are consistent in the, sorry, like that. The NTP found that fluoride is associated with reduced IQ in the vast majority of studies. That's the NTP's words, vast majority of studies. Next slide, please. The NTP found that the high quality studies, these are high quality studies, quote, consistently demonstrate lower IQ scores with higher fluoride exposure. Next slide, please. And the NTP, their assessment was very consistent with the assessment done on behalf of Health Canada in Canada. It was done by this consulting firm called Risk Sciences International. This was another systematic review of the literature, so using a similar methodology as the NTP. And this organization last year, 2024, concluded the overall evidence to date strongly suggests that fluoride can affect cognitive outcomes in children, specifically reduction in IQ scores at levels close to those currently seen in North American drinking water. Now, in my presentation, I'm not including any of our own experts' testimony. I am focusing on government reports and the government's own experts. Next slide, please. And I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to play these slides, these are deposition clips, but this is one of EPA's experts, Jesus Ibarluzuela, who swore under oath and admitted under oath that fluoride is a neurotoxicant. Fluoride is a neurotoxicant. He admitted it under oath. Next slide, please. Do you agree that...
Sorry, place the video. Continue.
Yeah, so this is Stanley Barone. He is EPA's their main risk assessment expert at the office that oversees the Toxic Substances Control Act. And in this, he admitted, and I think we don't have enough time, Keith, to show this clip, but Dr. Barone admitted that when you use EPA's risk assessment procedures to assess the science on fluoride, that fluoride qualifies as a neurotoxicant, as a chemical that damages the brain. That was Dr. Barone's admission, one of his admissions in this case. Next slide, please. And actually, if we can go to slide 12. In addition to these human studies on fluoride and IQ, we also presented testimony on these studies done in animals. These are laboratory experiments where you have controlled, you have a controlled environment where you give one group of rats a defined dose of fluoride, and you give another group of rats who are similar in all other respects, you give them more fluoride. And then you see if they perform differently on maze experiments and other experiments that have been designed for decades to understand if the brain has a deficit in learning or memory. And there are many, dozens of these animal studies that have found that the animals exposed to fluoride do not perform as well in these maze experiments, which is consistent with a chemical that reduces learning and impairs memory. Next slide, please. At trial, I called to the stand Dr. Christina Thayer, who is the director of EPA's Chemical and Pollutant Assessment Division. Dr. Thayer has done research on fluoride during her government work. Next slide, please. And Dr. Thayer agreed that the animal data supports the biological plausibility of fluoride causing neurotoxic effects in humans. So we have a large body of studies in human beings finding reductions in IQ with fluoride exposure, and we have studies in laboratory controlled environments finding that rats who have higher levels of fluoride do not perform as well on maze experiments. Next slide, please. Let's go ahead and play this video. This is Casey Hannon, who is the director of CDC's Division of Oral Health. In this video, I asked Mr. Hannon about some of the animal studies that have been done which have found changes in the brains of the animals as they increase the fluoride exposure. And I wanted to understand if CDC was disputing the validity of these findings. And in this clip, he answers my questions on that.
So the NRC found that lipids and phospholipids and protein content have been shown to be reduced in the brains of laboratory animals subsequent to fluoride exposure, correct?
That's what they're saying here, yes.
And the CDC agrees with that finding.
Yes, as a summary of the hazard.
You see the next section of on this page is titled Anatomical Changes in the Brain.
Yes.
And it begins, studies of rats exposed to sodium fluoride or aluminum fluoride have reported distortion in cells in the outer and inner layers of the neocortex. Neuronal deformations were also found in the hippocampus and to a smaller extent in the amygdala and the cerebellum. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And CDC agrees with that finding as a summary of the hazard.
As it relates to rat studies, yes.
Okay. And you see the next highlighted portion in that paragraph?
I do.
It reads, the substantial enhancement of reactive microglia, the presence of stained intracellular neurofilaments, and the presence of IgM observed in rodents are related to signs of dementia in humans. The magnitude of the changes was large and consistent among the studies. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And CDC agrees with the NRC that this is a correct summary of the hazard.
Correct.
So that was Casey Hannon, the director of CDC's Division of Oral Health, who conceded that in animal studies, fluoride causes a range of serious effects in the brain, effects that parallel and mirror some of the changes that we see in humans with dementia. Next slide, please.
And Michael, you're out of time if you want to make your final point here.
Okay, I'll go to the last slide. This is the court's conclusion in the case. Quote, the court finds that fluoridation of water at 0.7 milligrams per liter, the level presently considered optimal in the United States, poses an unreasonable risk of reduced IQ in children. That was the court's finding.
Okay, thank you so much. Hey, Mark. See if there's any questions and that sort of stuff.
Does anybody have any questions?
I do have some questions. So in Johnny Johnson's presentation that he sent to us via email, he states that there were over 108 court cases on fluoridation, and the EPA lawsuit is merely the 109th. What, if anything, distinguishes this case from previous fluoridation-related lawsuits?
There's a number of things that distinguish it. First, this is the first federal case to ever look at fluoride, at least the health effects of fluoride. This case was focused on the science, and it was specifically focused on the science of fluoride and the brain. There has never been any court case ever prior to this one that has focused on the science of fluoride and the brain. The vast majority of the cases that Johnny Johnson referenced are dealing with constitutional claims, claims to people opposing mandatory medication. But those raise very different legal issues. This case was focused on the science. It was before the federal court, and it's the first time that there's been any case on fluoride under the Toxic Substances Control Act, which authorizes EPA to ban the particular use of a chemical if it poses an unreasonable risk to human health.
Okay, thank you so much. Johnny Johnson also claimed that the judge found fluoridation poses an unreasonable risk, quote, but did not conclude with certainty that fluoridated water is harmful. The court's ruling states, as you read there, plaintiffs have proven by a preponderance of the evidence that water fluoridation at 0.7 milligrams per liter, the prescribed optimal level in the United States, presents an unreasonable risk of injury to health. Is there a legal distinction between unreasonable risk of injury to health and Johnson's assertion that the court did not conclude fluoridation harmful?
If EPA never uses the standard that Johnny Johnson has referenced, there is not a single risk evaluation that EPA has ever used under this statute, Toxic Substances Control Act, which is designed to protect us, the people, the public, from the impacts of toxic chemicals. It has never used this requirement of certainty of harm at the human exposure level. Never. EPA uses a different standard. It is a standard of risk, meaning the exposures to the chemical that we are getting in the public are precariously close to the levels for which we have a high degree of confidence are causing neurotoxic effects. And the court concluded that the evidence today shows consistent evidence of damage to the brain at levels of exposure that are very, very close to what many Americans are now consuming every day. And that is how EPA defines risk. And the court used that standard and concluded that there is an unreasonable risk.
Thank you so much. It was also asserted that the judge referenced the NTP report 120 times in his opinion. And because Johnny Johnson considers the NTP study flawed, the court's ruling is also flawed. Is this an accurate characterization of the evidence relied upon in the EPA lawsuit?
Well, I would first note that I know Mr. Johnson considers the NTP report to be a poor quality study, but the fact is the EPA in this case had every reason to take Johnny Johnson's point and say this is a low quality review, but they didn't. Instead, EPA's experts, including Dr. Barone, testified on the stand that this is a high quality review, not a low quality review, a high quality review. So EPA had every reason to make the argument this was a low quality review, but they didn't. They understood this was a high quality review. And to speak more directly to your question, no, there was a lot of other evidence in this case besides the National Toxicology Program's review. We had studies, birth cohort studies in Canada and Mexico, where we had the authors of those studies come to court and testify about their findings. These are birth cohort studies involving so-called optimal levels of fluoride exposure, where the scientists have found significant associations between optimal fluoride and reduced IQ. We also had animal studies. We had a lot of studies, again, over 17 days of court testimony dealing with, I would say actually hundreds of studies were at issue in this case. But yes, the court certainly relied heavily on the National Toxicology Program, as it should, given the NTP's expertise in this area.
Excellent. And my final question, Johnny Johnson argues that the judges are experts at interpreting the law, not science, suggesting courts may not be suitable for evaluating scientific evidence. How does the court's process under the Toxic Substance Control Act ensure a valid assessment of scientific evidence in cases like this?
Well, Congress specifically set forth a provision in this statute for the purpose of providing a check on bureaucratic lethargy at the federal government level. Congress recognized that there are times when science becomes politicized at government bureaucracies. And when you have politicized science in a government bureaucracy, like we have with fluoride, Congress wanted an independent check. And the federal court was the forum that Congress selected to provide this independent check on a politicized bureaucracy. And this judge, who's a very smart judge, had the benefit, something that most of us don't have the benefit of. He had the benefit of having the best scientists on both sides of this issue testify before him under the crucible of cross-examination. And our judge asked each of these experts many questions. The judge looked under the hood. The judge had an opportunity to look under the hood. He didn't have to rely on press releases by the American Fluoridation Society. Because if we had to rely on press releases from the American Fluoridation Society, we wouldn't be getting the full picture of the current science on fluoride. So the court had the opportunity to hear both sides, interrogate both sides, and thereby make an informed decision.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Do you dispute that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration say that fluoride is safe when using effectively?
I need to know more of what you're referring to when they say, and I asked the FDA, if we can go to slide, Keith, can we go to slide 20?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, I guess when you follow guidelines.
It's right here, Mark. FDA.
So I went to the FDA in this case because I wasn't interested in I asked the FDA, do you have a position on the level of fluoride that is safe for humans to ingest for the brain, for neurotoxicity, okay? And here's their answer. They have not conducted or sponsored independent research concerning the risk of neurotoxicity associated with exposure to fluoride and does not have in its possession any internal scientific evidence concerning this topic. The FDA has no position on this topic. So when I asked the FDA, what is your safety data to show that fluoridated water is safe for the brain, they did not have safety data, and instead they said, we do not have a position on this topic.
Okay, so there's no studies provided from the food department.
You're worried about proof? I think, Michael, is this the lady that says it from the FDA?
She's from the NSF, which is the organization that certifies the water treatment chemicals that are added to water. She confirmed that they have no data on they have no safety data on neurotoxicity. The manufacturer said the same thing. The CDC said the same thing. So no one was providing me any safety data to assure me and the court that there's actual competent safety data to show that water fluoridation will not pose harm to the brain.
And so
I asked them under oath with subpoenas, and they could not provide that data.
And I think what Mark meant by his question with asking for a study, what would be the source of the FDA comment that's currently on the screen with slide 20? Is that what you're kind of asking, Mark? Where's the source?
Yeah.
So what's the source of this statement that you read to us for 15? Is it the thing right in the background there?
Yes, that is a letter that the FDA wrote under penalty of perjury to me, answering questions that I asked the FDA to answer.
So I'm not
including.
Go ahead.
Including, do you have data on basically the I wanted to understand, like, what is the safe level that we can ingest, like the upper safe level where we don't have to be concerned about effects on the brain, and they came back and said, we don't know, we haven't looked at that, we don't have a position on this topic.
Gotcha. So like this is, I'm not too familiar with courts and stuff, this perjury stuff, like is that, they have to obviously tell the truth, it's not like their press releases.
Correct. They have to be able to stand by everything they say, and they went through a vetting process for this declaration. They had to like verify with they had to go through their documents to make sure that whatever they were saying they could back up.
Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay.
I have no further questions.
No further questions? Okay.
Good.
Well, let's see. Thank you guys so much for everything.
Hey, could I say one final thing?
Yeah, of course. One moment here.
Can you hear me okay?
We can, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say just one final comment here. 95% of the world doesn't fluoridate. Literally, only 5% actually fluoridates. So we have this worldwide beautiful experiment that we can compare. And I can tell you this, that the United States provides fluoride to more humans than the rest of the world combined. It's not even a contest. And yet our decay rates are not great. In fact, they're pretty much equal worldwide. So if this was so wonderful, wouldn't we see that our country would probably have some of the lowest decay rates? My point being is that it's food intake, it's home care, it's genetics, as John, there's so many things involved. Adding this chemical to the water supply has zero beneficial effect to our teeth. It never has, but now we've got proof that it's harming children, babies, brains, everything. It's just time to end this experiment.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm going to be muting the Zoom now.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. I think it's public comment next, Mark.
Yep. All right. I'll let you get situated.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we have questions for the presenter.
That's over. We already did that.
Oh, does anybody have questions for you first?
Oh, no, no, I think that was supposed to be
Anything that you want directed towards Keith,
I mean,
or?
you can ask me questions at any time. It is public comment.
I have a question.
Sure.
So my name is Charla, and I've lived in Washburn for a year and a half. And I have two children, two boys. Both are homeschooled, partly because we didn't know how long we were going to live in Washburn, given our jobs and how we wanted to get that going. So, I was a stay-at-home mom for 2 years, when I had, my youngest, and he's 20 months. And, we literally just went through neurology with him, and we have a follow-up appointment this Wednesday, so 2 days from now, over in Grand Forks. My son particularly has an MTHFR gene, what they call a gene mutation, which is a missing gene there's 4 of them, that he inherited from me and my children, my 2 sons. So because they have that, it's in the brain, it's a missing gene link. So the brain does not know how to operate when it encounters viruses or particularly food allergies. So my son has had 3, and people who are on the medical group he has had 3 seizures since September of last year, since we've been in Washburn. So we are literally having him tested because my husband and I, we did not know he would get sick and then he would have a seizure. And when we took him in, everything came back beautiful. There was no bacterial infection. All of his blood cells are normal. Everything is normal. He should go home and he'll be fine. And he would have these. It was unusual. It was extremely unusual. But he is more affected than my eldest son. And my eldest son, who just turned 9, he also has the missing gene. But particularly, this is not a new thing right now. People are discovering that this is something that's happening. And what we have come to understand is that by giving methylated B vitamins, we have to spend every month to buy that for them, that is where their brain can then have the pathways they need to deal with whatever it is. So we are on, hopefully, the downside of that. But the reason why I bring this up is because at that point, my husband and I decided to go strictly to purified water. And that was for everything, for boiling, making food, anything. And so in our budget, we don't have the ability to put in reverse osmosis. We are renting, so we don't have the right to do that. This is where I want to say, my viewpoint is, please don't put it in. And the reason is that people like me, who we are waiting for a home to buy, we are preparing, we are saving for that. We have no choice but to have either fluoride water or, and I don't know yet, we're going to get testing for my son to verify if he has toxic allergies. He definitely cannot handle any sort of dairy. We have strictly gone to coconut for him. There's antimicrobial effects with that. We've had to go reverse everything for him to help him. And he is finally healthy from the real aspect. According to the neurologist, he's had 3 EEGs done for his brain to discuss it. So I'm just saying, my son did not have any seizures till after we moved. None. And we lived in Turtle Lake prior to this. So I'm just saying, I'm also going to go in for myself because I don't know if I have allergies to that. I stopped fluoride use just because of preference of mine, not any other reason. That was 3 years ago. I have had 2 abscesses, both of which I never used fluoride to treat. I actually used what was a $30 mouthwash that had nano colloidal silver pharmaceutical grade nano silver, and I used that to treat both of them. And then I got off of 2 antibiotics that I was on, and I had my mouth healed from it about 6 months later, about 7 months later. So I'm proof that fluoride did not help me. I had it all growing up, and I was raised in Oregon. My parents met each other here, and we all moved back here. But when I was growing up in Oregon, they were one of the first places that increased fluoride. Me and my sisters, all of us had bad teeth growing up. So I'm just saying, I'm living proof that fluoride did not help our family, and we had complete. In fact, of all of my sisters, they just recently were all diagnosed with Hashimoto's. So, and that was the thyroid is affected particularly from the fluoride, because your body, from what I understand, talking to a neurologist, the neurologist, he confirmed that thyroid is affected in the production of the T3 and T4. Those are the two that your body needs to produce thyroid in your body, that the fluoride disrupts that, and the body thinks that there's thyroid produced when it's not. So I know for a fact that my thyroid, who I've had to go through iodine treatments to help my thyroid function properly, but otherwise I probably would be in the same boat as all my sisters. I have 3 of them, and my mother, who was just diagnosed last year. So I'm just saying, from our aspect, it's a lot more of a struggle for us to get just regular water and not have to worry about. I do think that is a problem though with my sons. So particularly my youngest. So that's why I'm here. Otherwise I wouldn't be here. I'd be at home making dinner. So my husband's doing it.
Thank you.
Yep. You have questions?
Oh, I just.
You need to state your name.
Oh, Sarah.
Would you like to come forward?
Do you want me to?
It's up to you.
It's up to you.
You can stay there if you want.
I'll just stay here. This is
Okay.
fine. I have a good view. I'm Sarah Feld. I spoke at the last meeting, and I think probably my comment on all of this is and this is not to disregard anything that you said, but I think we are very fortunate that we live in Washburn because fluoride is naturally occurring here. So at the end of the day, if you choose to stop supplementing the drinking water with it, our teeth will probably be okay because it's naturally occurring. If we truly believed it was as bad as everyone is saying, we'd probably be advocating to invest hundreds of millions of dollars into our treatment plant to remove it, which has not been something that is discussed. So at the end of the day, we are lucky. The nuance of the fact that it is naturally occurring here is not going to be in the headline when Washburn votes to remove fluoridation. So I just want you to be very aware of what it means to be going against decades of public health recommendations. Going against public health recommendations is why we have measles outbreaks in 22 states. This is important, and I'm not saying that dental health is as important as vaccinations because they are in their own area, but it is that type of public health recommendation that the whole this is going against. I have one other thing I want to talk about, and I spoke at this last meeting, or 2 meetings ago in February, as a citizen of Washburn. I presented myself as a citizen of Washburn, and I was sharing my personal experience and expertise in what I do in my professional life. But I did not present myself as a representative or as a public servant, which is, everyone knows that that's what I do. However, after I spoke at this meeting, I got 2 phone calls at work, an email, and my work emails requested through an open records request for something that is not my job. I specifically said I wasn't a subject matter expert. I'm not a drinking water expert. I know this. But I had to go explain to my boss and my boss's boss why my records were getting requested. And I would think that as commissioners, you would want your citizens to feel safe and comfortable coming and sharing with you. And instead, I felt targeted and harassed. And it's a problem. And I think that should be addressed, however your process works to address it, but it's not okay.
Sure, I'll explain that a little bit. So at our meeting, when I was talking about these studies, when I was speaking of all these studies and that sort of thing.
This is my meeting.
Okay, why can't I say something about that?
Because I want to speak to
I had the floor though. I have the floor right now.
No, she's speaking to the commission.
Right, but then I'm commenting on what she said.
That's okay. I'll give you an opportunity.
Sure.
So I got a statement because this is one of the issues. I've been working with the community over the past several months on rebuilding trust and showing full transparency at the city level and commission meetings. There has been issues coming forward to me from businesses, organization leaders, and the public. I have worked at these, I have looked at these verified comments and concerns. Moving forward as a commission group, the public trusts in decisions we make for our community. Playing city politics has no place within the city structure. Agree to disagree at times, but move on with our goals to serve Washburn. We've had this going on for many years. It needs to stop. Targeting. I've been targeted myself for speaking up, speaking your truth, and then you get attacked. It's been going on for years in Washburn, and a lot of businesses and citizens are tired of it. This is a prime example. Jim was targeted, you were targeted. It's got to stop.
And if I may say, Mark, I was also
You
targeted.
You can have the floor.
Thank you. I was also targeted when you filed a formal complaint with the ambulance regarding city commission business. So you have participated in this in as well, and that is kind of hypocritical. With you, the reason why I reached out to your job is because you said that you'd sit down with me and just discuss these studies. So in good faith, I reached out because you said you'd leave it with the city auditor. You did not do that.
Yes, I chose not to. So I did say that. I had every intention of doing that. And then you didn't ask for my contact information at the meeting. Okay, fine. I wrote off okay, you called not just my direct line, but the main line to get transferred to me and emailed as like, okay, you really want to get in touch with me. And I did respond to your email. And then you responded to me that said, when I presented myself as a researcher for the state, which I did not. And then I follow up with a notice from our ITD department that, oh, your emails are being pulled for all of this stuff. I did not feel comfortable or safe following up with you.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Did you do the FOIA, my name's Mark Creek, by the way. Did you do the FOIA request for this?
Yeah,
I think you need to be removed because she came here as a private citizen and you attacked her. You need to be removed.
It's not an attack.
No, Larry.
No, Mark, you're being biased.
Yeah, Mark.
Point of order.
Mark, seriously, this is a personal attack against me. Let's move that to new business. Let's finish with fluoride, and then you guys can attack me all night if you want.
Mark, you're not running a well-meaning here, and Larry's absolutely right.
Well, Larry spoke out of turn as well.
Mark, you're
just
showing
give me a second.
Be unbiased. That's all I'm asking.
I am being
Not even
unbiased.
close.
If we're gonna attack me, let's just do it at the end. New business.
No.
We can stay here.
Hold
We're talking
on.
about fluoride.
Excuse me. Let's have some.
We're on the issue of fluoride.
Right.
This is not an issue that is on the agenda,
Okay.
is what I'm saying. So
Let me control it.
bring it
please.
back to fluoride then.
I
Okay?
will.
Working on it.
Okay.
Okay, can I sit?
Mr. Olberg,
Thank you.
please state your name.
Lynn Olberg, private citizen. I was. Mr. Happ wanted to know whether I represent anybody, I'm getting paid by anybody. And my first thought was, no, I'm not getting paid. But then my second thought was, I'm getting a social security check, so I may be an employee of the government. So, there you go.
Okay.
Actually, you earned that social security check, by
Thank
the
you.
way.
Thank you.
It's not a handout.
Thank you. So, Mr. Happ said that he'd gotten 100 signatures on a petition. Is that true?
Yes, sir. 100. It's right here if you want to look at it.
Yeah, I don't need to look at it,
Okay.
but that's really a small part of the population that Washburn is serving. I just want to make that comment. At the meeting several months ago, there was a discussion. You guys were almost ready to vote 2 months ago. The question was, should we vote tonight or should we wait? And the discussion was, let's wait. Now, the number one reason is that the state legislature, the House, had a bill in front of them to eliminate fluoride. And I suggested that you guys wait. Now, maybe others had the same thought, but I suggested that you wait until after the legislature makes a decision either for it or against it. Well, the House overwhelmingly voted it down, the bill, tried to remove fluoride.
Well, actually, that was one of the reasons, because I'm the one that asked that we wait, and.
Well, you may be, but I.
Yeah, one of my, and that was
Yeah.
one of the reasons.
Yeah.
The House bill actually said leave it up to the local entities.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was like drinking through a fire hose that night, and I thought.
Yeah.
We need more time to gather more information. I certainly needed a lot more time to digest it. I guess that was my main reason in suggesting that. But I mentioned the House bill that was active. I mentioned RFK, which has taken a stand against it, which may be coming from the federal. You know, we're just looking at different information from different avenues is my reason for delay.
Yeah, well, my point is that there's an awful lot of, even tonight, there's an awful lot of information to process. I don't know how you can make a decision, even if you were gonna make a decision tonight, how you can make a decision with all of the pros and cons on this. I mean, there's so much information out there to process. You can go out on the internet and find 1,000 studies for it and 1,000 against it.
And everybody's an expert, right?
Well, everybody holds themselves out to be an expert, and that's wrong. And the last thing I want to say is that I rely on guys like Jim from Bismarck, very knowledgeable. He's worked at a water treatment processing plant. He's in charge of that Bismarck process. Has been there for 40-some years. He's just a very knowledgeable guy, and years past I've talked to him. And the other guy that I rely on here in Washburn is Adam. I trust Adam. He does an excellent job, and you guys should be very proud that you have a guy as smart as he is working for your water treatment plant.
We do appreciate him.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
But you should make that recommendation when it's negotiation for raises time.
I will be here. I will be here because I know what the water treatment plant managers and maintenance people are getting on the outside. So
throw in a plug for Chelsea too. So.
I will. I'll be here. Let me know.
Thanks, Lynn.
November.
Okay, I'll be here at the meeting.
I'll call you.
I just got one question. My name's Dan Lange. They say the water naturally has fluoride in it. Have we ever tested just to see?
By 0.05.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
So we're 70% there, just naturally.
Okay.
So.
Wow.
Okay, just to clarify your question towards me, I pulled my complaint that I initially filed.
We
All
can
right.
cover that in new business if you'd like, yeah.
Sure. Just wanted to correct you there. All right, does anybody?
I got something to say.
Sure.
I am here before you today, not as an opponent of dental health, but as a fierce advocate for truth, transparency, and the fundamental rights of our citizens. When I began this journey, I was neutral, seeking only to understand the facts. But what I uncovered has left me physically sickened by the web of lies and half-truths spun by those who champion water fluoridation. Not one supposed expert who contacted our meeting was willing to engage in an honest, open dialogue about the possible risks. I have personally reached out to every single one of them and got scolded by a few, I guess, for doing that, only to be met with silence or dismissal. This is not the behavior of those confident in science, it is the tactic of those protecting a dogma. Let us first confront the undeniable evidence of neurotoxic harm. A vast majority of studies, peer-reviewed and rigorously conducted, as we saw from our Zoom meeting here, show a clear association between higher fluoride levels and credible risks of neurodevelopmental issues. These include lower IQ scores in children, increased rates of ADHD and other behavioral changes, cognitive impairments, especially in vulnerable populations like children and pregnant women. These are not fringe studies. They are the work of respected scientists, including those who previously exposed the dangers of lead. In fact, the very researchers who sounded the alarm on lead's neurotoxicity are now key witnesses in the fight against fluoride. Yet when these studies are presented, the fluoridation promoters' only response is to cry, "Those are not good studies." This is not science. It is the echo of the cigarette lobby's playbook where inconvenient truths are buried under a mountain of denial. There is nothing more we should need to decide to protect women and children from these harms. The evidence is clear and the stakes are too high to ignore. Consider the irony. Our city is currently investing immense resources into identifying and removing lead pipes to protect our citizens from neurotoxic harm. Lead, like fluoride, is a known neurotoxin. Yet while we move heaven and earth to eliminate one, we willfully ignore the other. Why? If we are committed to safeguarding our children's cognitive development, how can we justify adding a neurotoxin to their drinking water? And no studies, contrary to what has been said here, no studies definitively prove 0.7 milligrams per liter is safe for developing brains. In fact, the evidence points to the contrary in great amounts. This is a glaring hypocrisy that undermines our city's commitment to public health. This brings us to the heart of the matter: informed consent. As a city, we've taken it upon ourselves to medicate every man, woman, and child without their permission. Consider the following. Where are the consent forms? They do not exist. Where is the information detailing the benefits and the risks? It is nowhere to be found. And which one of us is on this commission has a medical license to prescribe medicines without a doctor's oversight? None of us. We are forcing a medical intervention on our citizens, many of whom cannot afford the luxury of filtering their water or buying bottled alternatives. This is not just unethical, it is a violation of medical freedom. We do not add statins to the water. Why? We do not add statins to the water to prevent heart disease, nor vitamins to combat deficiencies, nor antidepressants to lift spirits. Why? Because it is not our place to medicate without consent. Fluoride should be no exception. Moreover, the alternatives are clear and far more effective. Fluoride mouth rinse and toothpaste applied directly to the teeth provide targeted benefit without the systemic risks of ingestion. The science is unequivocal. Fluoride's primary action is topical, not systemic. So why are we forcing people to drink a medication that needs to be applied to the teeth? It is a fool's errand, just like trying to drink nail polish to hope your nails turn blue, one that costs us dearly in terms of human health and public trust. And finally, let us remember that the decision now rests with us. The recent bill in the North Dakota House, which sought to ban fluoridation, failed only on the arguments for maintaining local control. They've entrusted us with this responsibility. That was their primary arguments, both on the floor and in committee. They wanted to maintain local control. That now it is our responsibility. Will we rise to the occasion, or will we shirk our duty to protect our citizens? I had my petition here with 100 signatures, which is one-eighth of our adult population. That is a pretty significant amount. And I know where I stand on this issue. Let us choose truth over dogma, freedom over coercion, ethics over convenience. I make a motion to cease adding fluoride to our water supply, effective immediately.
All right. Does anybody have anything
There's a
before
motion on the table.
The motion's on the table.
Well, I think
There's a motion on the table.
There's a motion on the
You
table.
made a motion.
It either needs to die of a second or get a second.
I'll second that, and then we can have discussion.
okay.
I guess since the last meeting, drinking through a fire hose, and have done a lot of reading, both pros and cons on it. The reason I seconded that and the reason I would support it is for the question you asked there, Dan. We're already at 0.05, which is 71% of what, and I realize that fluctuates back and forth. But then our 0.07 is sometimes 0.08, 0.09, going up that way too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to me, it's an easy, I don't necessarily want to call it compromise, but an easy solution that we are blessed to already have natural fluoridation that doesn't have to have a chemical additive fluoridation, which is not the same. So to me, it's the right thing to do of just ceasing to add it. We're already at 0.05. We're kind of like taking care of both things there. So that's why I'm seconding, and that's why I would vote for it. So.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I kind of have the same thought he does. I mean, just like if we already have the natural amount coming in, that's maybe a meet in the middle with both parties, that there's already some natural fluoride in there, and we meet, that's a compromise for both pro and con of it. So
Okay. I just got a couple things going, and I appreciate your words of wisdom. You're a very good speaker. Some of the information the commission has gone over. There's a couple things that I just want to say that filter systems can be installed in the homes if concerned with Washburn city water.
If you can afford it, because not everyone can.
True,
Yep.
true. You can buy bottled water for drinking or whatever. Fluoride is effective in preventing cavities in people of all ages. They are regulated as drugs by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and are safe and effective when used as directed. The city of Washburn has controlled the fluoride in the potable water allowed by state and health department standards. And then the one thing that Mr. Johnson said, he found there was no connection to low IQ with fluoride. So,
Okay.
Is there any more discussion? If not,
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I wanna thank you guys for having these presenters and all the information all about this. You guys did a good job on that.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Dan.
Mr. Langang.
All right. So, what point do we make the switch over?
The motion was for immediately, so.
Okay. Adam, you want to come join us for just for 1 second, if you will? So, you understood the motion and,
Of course.
okay. So, when do you look at you'll be able to stop fluoridating?
5 minutes after the meeting's over.
Okay. All right. That's all I have for you. Unless you have any other thing to talk about. Okay. We will move on with the meeting. Thank you. All right, cleaning fees, tiers for Memorial Building.
I updated the new form that we were looking to use, but I don't know if it's right in your guys' packet. The one I have printed for mine is incorrect, so if it's not right on yours. When we met with HR last week, we went back to determine how we were going to do this to try to regain some of that for the cleaning. Big events over there, a lot of people are getting the fees waived, but there's extensive cleaning that needs to be done over at the hall, especially if the kitchen is used. So we discussed adding if the kitchen is rented, no matter what, no matter how many hours, it is a $25 non-refundable deposit. And the rest of the building, for anything over 4 hours being rented, is a $25 non-refundable cleaning deposit. They will still get their fees waived, but those cleaning fees will be mandatory and non-refundable.
So did you guys decide on this last meeting?
We had discussed it, but we didn't know for sure what to do with it or the tiers, so they kicked it back to HR. So this is what we discussed in our last HR meeting, was doing 25 for the kitchen, 25 for the rest of the building.
So you're looking for action on this?
Correct, yes.
The rest of the numbers are the same. Right?
Yeah, I moved them back to what they used to be, so yeah, all the numbers,
Those are-
no pricing is changing on the actual agreement, it's just we're adding on this non-refundable cleaning deposit.
Okay.
If I understood what you're saying, there's this across the board 25, and then plus whatever this activity is? Or am I?
No, it's 25 if you rent the kitchen, and then if you rent the hall, any part of the hall for over 4 hours, because there's this, you can rent it for under 4 hours or over for a full day. So if you rent it for a full day, then it's 25.
Plus the
in
$100 addition for somebody that's actual paying, but it's kind of more so to regain some of that for all the events that are over there that I think get their fees waived. But yes, otherwise it would be in addition to, I guess, because we're still going to charge everybody it for the cleaning, correct? Or are we just taking that out there? That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah, so, sorry.
yes,
I follow what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's 25 plus whatever this would be. So like for just a clarification.
Yep.
It's, so this is the first one, it's 25, so if it's a sporting activity, upper level auditorium, it's 35.
No.
No,
Or
Cause it's under the 4 hours.
They're all under 4 hours.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. So if it's 4 hours or more, it's automatic 25, then plus this? Or,
No, it's plus the 25 cleaning fee, plus the actual fee.
So if someone's renting it for, like, say, a full weekend, they'll have like, oh, like we'll say a wedding. They'll have it for the $500 rental weekend. Then they'll have an additional 25 for the kitchen, because most people rent the kitchen, and an additional 25 for the rest of the building. So it would be, in your case, asking you $550.
okay.
So you're looking for a motion to approve this? Did you have something, Randy?
I was just gonna say, we were just saying that the prices are just very reasonable, and
Right.
this is just kind of paying for the
Yep.
labor that goes in no matter what afterwards.
Well, I would move to approve these then.
I'll second that. Thank you guys for your work on this. Is there any more questions on the fees? Not hearing any. Tim?
Yep.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, water and wastewater purchases.
Go ahead, Adam.
Yep, so, I met with Tim earlier in the year, I don't remember, was it February or early March?
Yep.
Kind of laid out our plans for, purchasing for the, water treatment and wastewater treatment sections. And these are the purchases that we would like to make. So we've got 2 actuators on here, we've been replacing actuators over the past couple of years, getting those, with a better, type that actually works, compared to the ones that we used before. Some chemical pump upgrades that are badly needed, I would say. We got 14, 15 years out of the current ones. This pump we already use in our chlorine feed, and we really, really like this pump, and it's a more robust pump, better accuracy. So we're looking to switch over the rest of our pumps with that. Replacing our chlorine analyzer in the water treatment plant, and the 2 other chlorine analyzers we're looking to experiment a little bit about getting testing done on the water that is in the towers already, so that we can have that feedback instead of, you know, when we check it twice a week right now, but we would like to have that that rolling number just all the time. So that's there. The sewer stuff is a little smaller, except for the gas meter. We were replacing a meter head in a pit the other day, and had a few concerns about the air quality down there. So, and we haven't had a gas meter as far as I'm aware, and I think that'd probably be a good thing to have. So, my understanding is this is a very highly regarded meter. The rest of the stuff is for the new sewer truck on the sewer side. I can answer any questions about any of them.
Because a lot of this stuff is pretty aging stuff at the treatment plant.
Yeah, you know, we'd like to see our pumps last longer than 13, 14 years, but this pump is just so much better than what we have now. We could continue to use what we have, but I would like to have that better accuracy and more robustness on these newer pumps. The chlorine analyzer needs to be replaced. The actuators need to be replaced. And like I said, the other 2 chlorine analyzers, that's more of an addition.
But it would at least let you know whether the tower corresponds with what's coming out of the
Correct, yeah. That's what we'd like to see.
See what's going on in between, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What page is the one you're looking at there?
I'm not sure. It's print out there.
I think it was the first one added to the
Yeah, that didn't look like it had all that on it.
whatever agenda item that is. 15.
Page?
Yeah, I think it was the first thing I put on
There
their
it is.
packet.
Oh, yeah, never mind.
That's good.
My bad.
Yeah, and then I included, I think, a couple of the quotes, and some of the documentation for some of it. No.
No, I think these things are need be, so. I mean, we have an aging plant.
Yeah.
we wanna keep it up, so.
And when we talked about this before, I had a higher number planned for, spending this year, so we actually came in under, which is nice.
Right. I would move to approve these purchases, both out of water treatment and sewer.
I'll second it. Is there any question? Not hearing any? Tim?
Yep.
Yes.
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 And yes. Alright, PRV improvements, cost estimate.
You wanna come up, Chris, too? Or wanna stay back there? Okay.
We'll be nice to you.
Alright, good evening. So I submitted last week, the updates on the PRV costs. You guys all have that in your packet. So the cost that I submitted to you guys, that was after talking to the supplier, Clayval, and the cost estimate was updated based off of getting a prefabricated, prepackaged vault with all the pipes, fittings, and valves all in there. So that's my final cost estimate to you guys. I'm working with contractor Chris Tresbeck, and he is looking into providing another cost estimate. But I'm fairly confident what I have. Chris, if he has the opportunity, he could potentially get a lower cost.
Right.
So I'm gonna let him do that and get back to you guys. I didn't give him the information in a very timely fashion, so I think he would like to have some time to look into that for you guys.
And we have, with Chris locally here, we don't have to worry for someone that's way out, already filled for the year. He's committed to doing it for us, so we have time to, him and I can get together too and go over this stuff, and then you also, like we did today.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And, I gave Chris like a bid sheet that he could fill out on what his costs would be for the equipment, materials that he would procure. The valves, I'm pretty confident that those wouldn't change too much in price since I talked directly to the supplier on those. But is there any questions that you guys might have on what I've supplied for an estimate or going with Chris to do the work this summer on the PRV projects?
Well, I guess just a little explanation that on the other end of town, it's really not it's just a repair. It's a replacement of existing PRV valves.
Yep.
We're at the old water tower, it's actually a little bit more of a reinventing the wheel.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just to back up a minute, I guess. So in town we have two pressure zones, right? We have the newest tower and the Senex tower are on the higher zone pressure.
Yep.
Just because they're up in elevation quite a bit more. And then the old tower, that's on 6th Avenue, that's on the low zone. Okay. And what we've learned over recently with the last inspection KLM did is that tower is beyond really doing any more. I think it's pretty solid, it won't fall over, but it's just really deteriorating pretty bad. So it's beyond like refurbishing again, because the city has done that a few times. So what we're doing is the connection points between the high zone in town and the low zone, there's two PRV points. One's right by the old tower on 6th Avenue. The other one's down here on 4th Avenue East. So what we're doing is updating those PRVs, okay? So the vault that's down here on 4th is in good shape, but the PRV's 25 plus years old. So we would just replace that PRV. The vault and the PRV that's up on 6th is in horrendous shape. So recommendation is to install a whole new vault with a 6-inch PRV and a bypass for that. So that's what we're looking at, and maybe that would help explain the cost estimate a little bit more if you guys had a chance to look at that. But Chris would be able to do the work on that, and we'd be working with Dave out of Northwest Power and Equipment to supply the valves, the PRVs.
Okay.
So.
Got one question, Larry?
What's the engineer's estimate on that?
for construction costs with contingencies is $170,000.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
So if everything went perfect on the project and we didn't have additional things that popped up, it'd be somewhere closer to like 140.
right, yeah.
So it just, would depend. So whenever I do an estimate for you guys, I always build in a little bit of conservativeness, just to make sure that if something would happen during construction, then it would be, it would cover that. It would be in your budget. And if it would be under that, then great. Then the city ends up paying less. But, like again, Tim and I will work with Chris to see what we think we might be able to get for that if it could be something under that. So
Sounds good.
We are using our ARPA money for this as well, so.
Yeah.
And that expenditures this year, correct?
It has to be done by 2026, but I'd prefer for
Get
all
it
the
done this year, yep.
paperwork, that it's completed this year, so.
So I know there's been talk about special assessments. This would not be a special assessment.
No.
So I don't wanna.
It's coming from our ARPA funding that we have, so.
And that's sufficient, I think, to pay for it, so.
It is, yes.
Yep, so, okay. Thanks, Eric.
The next item that you have, if there's no other questions, we could go to the next item on your agenda.
Sure. Please do.
So the Seal Coat project, I have on the top of my update report to you, the plans and specs are completed for the Seal Coat project. I printed off one copy of the plans, but also Chelsea has a digital copy of them too. So I went over those with Adam when we're at the milestone completion, and we did end up adding Boat Ramp Road to the project. So I sent this sheet here. This is the quantities sheet. So Boat Ramp Road added about 4,000 square yards. Boat Ramp Road from the tracks down to where the boat ramp is. Okay, you guys know where I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
So that added quantity to the project. So with that, I updated the cost estimate. So I'm estimating construction costs for the Seal Coat project would be $258,000 for construction costs. And that's my final update on the cost estimate. And what I would like to do, if the commission would approve, is advertise this project for bids. Now, once we get bids back from contractors, it could be something less than that, 258, but we're at the point where we're ready to advertise. If we can get it approved to advertise, it would go in the paper this Thursday and 2 Thursdays after that. And then we would open bids on Chelsea's birthday.
Alright.
So that's on Thursday, May 8th at 2 o'clock. So if you guys are okay with it, I guess first I'll ask, is there any questions on the Seal Coat project or the cost estimate or the plans?
Say if they go higher than anticipated, do we have right of refusal, or do we have to take lowest bidder at that?
You guys always have the right to not accept the bid.
Okay.
You do. So, I don't anticipate them being higher than what I'm estimating. It could be that it ends up going higher than what I estimate. But I've used some data, historical data and what we're seeing right now in the market to come up with my estimate. So I know that I'm not right on estimates all the time, but this should be pretty close to what it is. Hopefully it's gonna be a little bit less than that, okay? So, we have to advertise for 21 days in the paper before we can close bidding and open them. So I'm expecting that there's always contractors that are coming through doing Seal Coat projects. So if we should be getting bids from a couple of contractors on this one, and this is a good time right now for bidding. So, and we're well ahead of the Seal Coat season, so it should be no problem there either. Getting it done. So if there's no questions, my ask to you guys is to approve advertising, accepting the plans and specs and advertising for bids on this one.
You ready to go on? It's your baby. Sorry.
Just make a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the
Seal Coat project.
Seal Coat project.
And advertise for bids.
Advertisement.
I'll second it.
Yep. You seconded it, Tim?
Yep.
Okay. Any more questions? Tim?
Yep.
Yes.
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 And yes.
Okay, thank you. The next one I wanted to bring up on my update report was the drainage improvements project. I know that this has been something that's been on the city's radar for years. The drainage improvements are on the north side of the highway, up by Custer Drive. And we've been looking at that one for a while, and if we're gonna do, the next street improvements would be up there. These drainage improvements should be done first.
Excuse me,
Is
just
my
one second.
recommendation. Yep.
You're going into your update now?
Yes, I am, sorry.
We got 18 here yet.
Okay.
But you have information on that.
18, okay, Riverside Park Road, yep, sorry about that. Riverside Park Road has been sliding for a couple of years. And we've been looking into that for a while. We went in and, I got you guys a cost estimate for doing a geotechnical study on that. Ended up being a little bit of money to do that. So we went and looked for some funding for that. And we were awarded the special road fund grant, we applied for, to the tune of $214,000. And that's just for construction costs, and that's a 60-40 grant.
Right.
So what that means is, if the project costs $100,000, the state would fund 60,000 of that, and the city would have to come up with 40,000 of it, okay? Up to the max amount of funding of 214,000, okay?
That's for both testing or repair, correct?
That is, it's not for engineering, so we can't use it for engineering costs, and if you're talking about like a geotechnical
Right.
study, yeah, it can't cover that,
Okay,
unfortunately.
yeah, so just,
So it would just be for road improvements. So what I submitted to the state, because they told me that we couldn't include geotechnical study or engineering costs, it would be for if we wanted to repair the road and do some dirt work to restore the slope from the edge of the road towards the riverside. Because we've had, if you guys have had a chance to go down there and look at it, I know that some people in the room have looked at that a lot. On the edge of the roadway, between the roadway and the river, it's the bank is just dropping off pretty bad. I know Adam's seen it. So if we wanted to spend money on this and we have a 60-40 grant, the recommendation would be to restabilize that slope. So take that drop off out and put a nice compacted, easier slope from the edge of the roadway to where we tie in before the river.
Yep.
And then we would saw cut and remove some of that asphalt that's been busted off or, broke off, and we'd repave that. And we would fix that pipe that's pulled apart in the one spot.
That goes under the.
Yeah.
so then in order to submit it or keep, for them to keep the city honest, would you, figure out what you wanna do, ask for quote bids on it, and then accept a bid and then submit it to the state for reimbursement? Because otherwise, it's pretty easy, you could really bill for this otherwise.
Well,
How do they keep you honest in that?
Yeah, I would say that we would want to define a scope of work.
Right.
So if the city, if you're wanting to do a scope of work of what I just explained briefly, of doing some dirt work, restabilizing the slope from the edge of the roadway towards the river,
Right.
and then removing some asphalt and repaving it and fixing a pipe, then I could give you guys a quote for that.
Right, just so it goes to the state, knowing that we're on the up and up on this and not using the.
Yeah,
funds for
it would,
something
we
else.
would be underneath the cost that they're approving, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Because we wanna maximize the 60-40 grant, we
Right.
we don't wanna go over our funding on this.
Cause I just wanted to make sure, I'm just, so that, the checks and balances shows that this funding is going for that,
Oh, yeah, absolutely,
Right.
yeah, we would absolutely,
Yeah,
because the
prove
state's
that
gonna
it's
they would look at reimbursement requests and what
Right.
work's done, and then they would say, okay, this is within the scope of what the city applied for in their grant
Right.
application.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, absolutely.
So we need a motion just to approve.
Or
we even need, or we're already in.
So where you're at right now, and Chelsea got an award letter from the state, and what they ask is the city to confirm acceptance of the grant,
Okay.
and to let them know where the local funding is and if it's secured.
Okay.
Okay, so
By May 16th,
by May 16th.
yes.
So you wouldn't have to decide right now.
Okay, so we can do it next meeting then.
Well, when's
May
the
12th.
meeting? May 12th?
Yep.
So yeah,
We could. But it's out, I mean, the biggest thing is, and I knew there'd be more work from Eric to go ahead, and if any kind of scope of work from him, we need to decide that at this meeting.
Right.
So that he can be able to present that at our May meeting to see if we're gonna go forward with this, cause I have to let the state know by May 16th. Whether or not we're going to accept this as, I mean, it is a high demand.
Yeah, the part,
grant,
If the city doesn't want the funding, the state wants to give it to somebody else.
Yes.
I guess the part that I was questioning is that you said that we have to provide information that we can match the 40% funding.
Yes, the local funding.
Yeah.
And what I'd recommend there is if the city wanted to use their own funds, that's fine. Or what Abby and I talked about was Bank of North Dakota funding. That could be something that would be a good source for funding if the city wanted to do that. So
right,
and we could tell the state, hey, our plan is to get BND funding, but they are saying their words were local funding secured. So I think we would have to at least submit an application to BND before we could realistically say to the state, like, yeah, we have funding secured.
Or see how big your project is, because we could probably have enough funds
Right,
on our own.
and
yes,
right.
And if you guys want me to, you know, what I can do is, so a cost estimate was submitted with the grant application. They needed that at least from us. So I can take that and I can put the screws to that and give you guys hey, this is my latest on the specific scope of work of what we want to do.
Yeah.
And I can look at that with you guys and say, hey, we want to replace the pipe. We want to replace X amount of square yards of roadway, and we want to do this dirt work to stabilize the slope. You know, and if it's more specific, then I can give you a more specific cost estimate.
So what you're looking here is just for a motion of acceptance of the grant.
Yeah, I would say maybe a motion of acceptance of the grant, and then if you want me to provide you an updated cost and scope.
Okay.
I think that's the biggest thing. If you wanna wait, and I guess you could accept it
Right.
in May, but the biggest thing, I think, is for the scope of the project to even see if this.
No, if we're ready to do it, we might still do it tonight.
But one question though, like, when we were talking about this slope, you know, cause we were gonna go out, if I remember right, had to go out and get, was it Braun or Intertech or something like that, who was gonna cost like 70,000 to even try to study it.
So you're talking about the geotech study that we were talking about earlier, yeah?
Are we talking about foregoing that and trying to do our own fix?
So
or
we could forego doing the geotechnical study if you want. We could do the geotechnical study if you want, but the grant funding will not pay for the geotechnical study.
I get that. So I mean, if we could potentially be throwing, if we don't do the study, we could be throwing a lot of money down a sliding hill anyway.
If you want to look at it that way, you could. I would say that improving the slope in the roadway and the drain pipe is still an improvement. I would say.
And if you accept this grant, you don't have to use it. I mean,
correct. Yeah. If you say we plan to use the funding, and then all of a sudden you say we're not doing a project, I don't think the state's gonna penalize you for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the amount of money we're looking at, you get another 10 years and then you're gonna be back to where we are, but it's still gonna keep sliding. We're not gonna fix that with
Mother
100,000.
Nature. I say the quote that somebody told me a long time ago, that's very true. Mother Nature is always gonna win.
Sure.
So you can when you're on a riverbank like this, you can keep fixing it, but you're probably gonna 10, 15, 20, who knows how much longer, you're gonna have some sliding happen again. You can see it up and down the Missouri River in Bismarck. They have sliding issues all the time on their river road. So this would be something that would improve it. And maybe you don't see sliding again for 20 years. Maybe you see it again in 5. You know, I can't tell you that for sure.
I guess
A few years back, when Larry was still down here, we dug a test hole down there on that spot.
Right.
It was trash. It was groundwater, poor materials. Any repair that we do on it's Band-Aids on a open heart surgery.
And you guys dug by where the old intake used to be, correct?
No, we dug right where that big slide is at right now. We
Yeah,
dug right there.
Where the old intake used
Pretty
to be.
close, yeah.
Yeah.
That was close.
Yeah.
It was all mush under there.
It was pure.
I got a question. So why can't we take up the asphalt in that area and just bring in some gravel or crushed concrete and fill in that spot, and then as it sloughs, we can just keep,
So you wanna turn the road to gravel?
just in that one spot.
I mean, if you wanna do that, you could.
I mean, and especially if it's gonna continue to move.
You don't know if it's gonna continue to move yet or not, I guess.
Well, put it this way, if we put gravel or crushed concrete or whatever in that area, and then if it stabilizes in the near, you'd have to dig down and check it, for whatever compaction.
How deep were we down, Chris? We were down, like 10, 12 feet, like 10,
Yeah.
about
Oh, you
12
want
feet
that?
at least,
Yeah.
Right, I mean, you can't,
So it sounds like it's gonna keep moving.
right, but that was within a couple of years probably of the flood years.
Mhm.
And whatever else between, but,
Sure.
can we do some geotextiles? Can we put some sheet piling in? Can we do something to bridge this thing, to float it? Can we put drain tile in there depending on the height of the river? Can we de-water? Can we get can we get 6 feet of good material over the top and let it drain off? Is the Corps gonna get mad if we have drain tile hanging off the bank? I mean.
Yeah. Well, if you look at County Road 22 going out east of town,
Well, they
that's
said
been
millions
fixed
of-
twice and it's starting to
Yeah, it will
settle
be-
again, so.
Right, but
I say if we're gonna do bank improvements, the repairs of the asphalt will be minimal cost. It's,
Okay.
I mean, we do patching all the time, and it doesn't, that little bit's not gonna cost us that much. So I don't think we need to take the drastic step of turning it to crushed concrete yet. Cause if we do this project, that patching is gonna be.
I guess from my standpoint, I think it's a good opportunity for the city to take advantage of some grant funding to make some improvements that are gonna be just that. They're gonna be improvements. That drain pipe to get replaced, the slope to be stabilized and to take off some of that drop off. And then to reduce some of the asphalt, I think that would be a good investment.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the grant funding.
What kind of motion did you need? I was just gonna ask you that. To secure,
Local funding.
local funding. You wanna
Yeah,
put that in there
the
too?
local funding grant, yeah.
And Chelsea, Abby, and I can help with the BND thing. And then what I can do is get you guys an updated cost of some of the specifics on that.
Sure.
I'll second it.
All right. Any more discussion? Not, Tim?
Yep.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. What else you got for us?
All right, so the other thing that I was gonna talk about is the street and drain improvements. So the drainage improvements, on the north side of the highway up there. I just, was talking to Lynn a little bit. Lynn is on the McLean County Water Board. And, Lynn and Shannon have been working with Jamie a little bit on, trying to get some funding sources together for doing the drainage improvements. Lynn talked to me a little bit about the State Water Commission, getting funding through the State Water Commission through their funding their flooding bucket of funding. So if that's something that, the city would want us to go do, we could look at potentially getting some funding through them. And then, again, work with the water board as well to help out with a project like that. The streets up in that area of town, are in pretty rough shape. And I know it's been talked about replacing those streets. If that's something the city wants to do, this drainage improvements project should be done first.
Yeah, I think that's why we had to split out and we wanted to get this going, but, yeah, where did we leave that, or do you want?
Well, kind of where we're at is, we really need to go to the state, that's the Department of Water Resources now, I always call it the Water Commission, but, we need to go in with an application, which is not gonna cost a whole lot, but go in with an application to see how much grant funds we can get. And then typically what they do is they do what they call a cost benefit analysis. And, if say the project was eligible, let's just say for 50% grant funding, then from 50%, they would decide whether you could get 50% of that, or 75%, or 100% of the 50%. But you don't know that until you go in for the application. And I think between your engineer, and I think we've got enough information that we can go forward and find out what kind of grant funds are available. If there's any funds available, this year now they've cut back because of the oil money. They've cut back on some of the money that's gonna be available. And, you know, at the end of the day, it might be cheaper where you could hire Chris to go in there and put in some drain pipe and do some of the work. We don't know that until we go in and see what's available, you know, through the Department of Water Resources.
Yeah, and just to comment more on what Lynn said, the price of oil has dropped quite a bit, so the state's budget to the State Water Commission or to the Department of Water Resources is a lot less this biennium because that their projections on oil revenues is so much lower. But the first thing you gotta do is ask and submit the application, so if that's something, you know, this would be similar to our efforts that we did, not at all the same project, but it was the same source. We went to the State Water Commission for the intake funding way back 10, 12 years ago. So this would be going to them again and looking for help with flooding, because that's exactly what's happening up there. We went over it before, but I showed you guys the delineation area north of town there, all that large area that drains to that one spot. And we haven't had it really much in recent years, but in larger years where we've actually had snow in a bigger spring melt, that area up there gets pretty inundated with runoff and with snow melt. So in that the street that I always comment on is Custer Drive. That one is pretty flat, and all that water has to run down there, and a lot of it ends up sitting on the road a long time. So if you did want to improve that road, you really need to take care of the drainage first.
Basically, what we have to do, and it's probably a 1-hour meeting at the State Water Commission. And it's the engineer and Shannon and I, and then one of you commissioners would be good to have along. Jamie or who's ever available. I know Jamie's awful busy a lot of the time, but
yeah.
But typically it's about a 1-hour meeting at the most. And we put together an application and at least get the ball rolling.
Do we need to make a motion to do that, or do we just need to say we're gonna do it, or do we wanna do that?
That's up to you guys. If you wanna have a motion just to move forward, you know, we're not gonna spend a ton of money putting an application in. Because a lot of the work, 82S has already done, you know, with preliminary costs and design.
You know, if we're gonna move forward, with a joint venture with them, we really should put it in form of a motion to, so it comes from the commission.
Sure. Would you like to make a motion? I guess.
I would move that we would, apply for, I guess, grant status with the State Water Commission or whatever they're called now, with McLean County.
Yeah.
To see what we can come up with. I'm sure you'll word that just perfectly, Chelsea.
I'll second that motion.
I'm tired.
Any other questions? Tim?
Yep.
Yes.
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 And yes.
So what we'll do then is we'll try and get a meeting set up, between the engineer and us. Get a meeting set up and then we can let Jamie know or
Yeah.
someone, whoever you wanna send.
Yeah, if I can make
But
it.
there should be somebody from the commission that attends the meeting.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, if I can make it, then I'll go, and if I can't, would you take my place if I
Sure.
couldn't?
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, so.
I can do that.
Okay.
Sounds good. Well, we'll get working on that, and I'll just keep you guys updated on when that meeting would occur, and of course on subsequent commission meetings, I'll keep you guys updated. Okay, next thing I had on is the lead and copper rule revision. I know that Adam has been, and his guys have been busy, updating curb stops and such, and also trying to get into, some of the homes that, we have unknowns at yet for the service lines. I'm expecting that Washburn will get funding from the state for this category 2 work. New Salem and Killdeer and Beach have all got funding. So I'm that was about the order that Washburn was in. You guys were like right after them, so I'm expecting if they got category 2 funding, that Washburn's gonna get it.
What is, remind me again what all category 2 covers?
So category 2 is gonna be a records review again, cause they want us to look at connectors, okay? And it's putting out the survey again, okay, which Washburn had pretty good survey results, by the way. I give you guys some props, you're 25-30%, which is better than most. And then, so putting the survey out, and then providing time for us to come out and help you guys do door to door. So any unknowns we have, we would send them information, and we'd end up eventually knocking on their door to help them complete the survey to determine the surface line material.
And we've covered a lot of that already, so.
So it might not be a huge effort, but I am expecting that you guys might get funding this year yet. It seems more and more probable now. So just that's all I had for that one. Just a quick update on that.
Another pair of eyes on some maps, wasn't it? So.
Right. We covered the special road fund grant. The last thing that I had to talk about, and I'm sure many of you have seen it in the news, the FEMA grant that the city had for the Red River Valley Water Supply Project pipeline that would connect their intake that they have downriver to the city has been canceled. That was over a $7 million grant. I know the city signed the memorandum of commitment to get on board with that project, knowing that we had that grant. And the fund was canceled by the Department of Homeland Security, and what was stated, you can read the news release on it, but essentially the funds were reallocated to U.S. Disaster Relief Fund to better support states in disaster planning, response, and recovery. So they sought that those funds should not be on a project like that. So I think I sent the press release, I emailed that too. So but if you guys, you can see it online anytime too.
So
Any questions on that?
What's gonna happen with the structure that's out there?
So that structure is still part of Garrison Diversion's plan to be a part of their project. They're building another intake on the McCluskey Canal that's in the works. So they are hopeful that they can still utilize that to folks that are closer to it. But from what I understand in their grand plan, that still will be connected to the rest of their pipeline that's going to Lake Ashtabula. So
we're working on it.
I would hope that they can find use for it, because that is a massive intake that's in a very good position on the river. So it would be a shame if it wasn't put to use. It's not going to have the way that they have it built and where it's at on the river. It's not going to have some of the issues that the intake that we have here, just with the sandbar migration and stuff. So, but that's all I have for you guys. I'm sorry I went so long.
Well, that's okay.
It's been a long meeting. So, any questions?
Nope. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Yes.
Are you going to email the paper, or do you want me to tell them to get?
I'll have Cammie
Okay.
do it.
Perfect.
She was asking me already during this meeting.
Oh, okay.
Because the paper does have the advertisement, by the way. We just wanted to wait until the commission confirmed it, and then we'd give the paper the go-ahead, because they need to know today, basically, that they can put that in, so that hits the paper on Thursday for the Silco project ad. So okay, thanks.
All right, 21, portfolios, new business. Tim, do you have any?
No, it's all been covered.
Okay. James?
No, mine's kind of been covered too, I think, so.
Anything new out at the airport?
I haven't heard.
Oh, okay.
The fire department got some land, donated to them.
Has that been, has it gone through the lawyer and everything?
Last I heard, they're working with Dave still.
Okay.
Yeah. And then our police contract is up.
Mhm.
When will they have us sign it?
Usually we receive it roughly the first week of May, second week of May. It has to be signed by July, so there's plenty of time.
So if anyone has any questions for the next meeting on that.
Contact you, and then you can refer those questions to them so they can be prepared. Okay.
Yeah, nothing really with portfolios. We have HR, which was the cleaning fees and that sort of stuff. I guess just a comment besides portfolios. Here's a public service announcement, I guess. If there is that many people that do not like me and do not like the job I am doing, you can exercise the democratic process by doing a recall petition. Just Google recall petition North Dakota. You'll be able to print one off. And I think it'd be reasonable, Chelsea, if someone wanted a recall petition for someone sitting here, the office could print it for them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just get a recall petition. You get your signatures. You get it submitted. You get it on the ballot, and you can remove anybody that you'd like. So just wanted to make that announcement.
Another privilege, so the law has changed on that too, so.
Or did it?
Yeah. So they've increased the number of percentage of signatures and they've increased the number of sponsors.
It's still doable.
They're still doable, yeah, it's just that they've increased the number.
But I don't think those take effect until
To
August 1st.
August 1st, right.
So.
Do it quick.
Okay. I just want to say Adams and the crew have been doing a great job. They got the boat docks in, got the fishing pier in. That all looks good. I know he's dealing with the road going up to River Ag. Something we'll have to discuss more when it dries out a little bit. The only other thing I got to talk about is, since I took office, I've had 6 whistleblowers come forward to me to discuss issues that they've had with the city. We're talking businesses, organizations, the public. I have been in contact with the state. The state has referred me over to the Attorney General's office, and we'll see where it goes from there. So hopefully we can resolve these issues that we have concerning with the public. I am working on it. So.
I may ask, what are the alleged crimes that have been committed?
I'll let you know when, after I talk to the Attorney General's office.
Okay, sounds great.
All right. Besides that, everyone's doing a good job. Chelsea, thank you for all your hard work. Same thing with Erica. Spring is here. That's about all I got. Adam, what do you want to talk about?
Well, you've got my report. If there's any questions about it, we'll just kind of go over it. No? Okay.
No,
Did you
talk
to Jerry at all? Yes, May 13th is when he's coming up.
Oh.
With the machine.
Okay, he was saying like June, but no.
I talked to him.
Okay.
Yep. Doesn't really fit with our timetable for June. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. May 13th. Yeah.
Spring cleanup is May 12th through the 16th. Curbside is the 17th. The compound hours are Monday through Thursday, 3 to 7 p.m. Friday from 10 to 2. Anything with metal, appliances, anything like that needs to go to the compound. Some like dressers, mattresses, that can all go to the curbside. If you have questions, just call the city. Side note that if you do have construction material and a lot of it, they probably will not take it. We've learned that in the past. If you have any blue flags in your yard, please keep them there. The guys are going around and marking all the curb stops with their GIS system. They will remove them once they are all marked. The public hearing for special assessments is April 29th at 7 p.m. in the basement of the Memorial Building. There seems to be some confusion, so again, agenda item deadline is Thursday at 4:30. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Oh, we're closed on Friday. I know.
Next meeting, May 12th, meeting adjourned.